And to the point about its importance, in every community that you're a part of in your life, whether it's school, whether it's work, whether it's personal life, being able to communicate, being able to connect, being able to see what others feel, being able to respond to how others feel, being able to then take that and make a difference in what people think about topics that are being discussed is so very important. Especially now more so when we live in an age post-COVID, post-pandemic, post many things that have increased social isolation in many communities, especially young communities. And so it's super, super important to be able to tap into emotional intelligence, and being able to communicate with folks, not so, I like the term art, not as a science, as an art, and being able to adapt and mold into different circumstances. So I think that was a great description and great analogy.
Thank you both. So we talked about public speaking, but when it comes to public speaking, the first thing that comes to our mind is the fear. What is that fear? How to overcome that fear? Is there any techniques that you are using? Why you are not feared? Or you are not fearing when it comes to public speaking? Please share with us.
How many of you, when you started speaking somewhere, whether it's class, work, whatever, you get this like faltering in your voice before you speak for the first seconds? Did anyone notice that and feel that? Yeah. So good analogy, good motto that folks have shared is, hey, if you're a little nervous, if your voice falters a little bit before, clearly you care about something, right? You're not going into it not caring about how you are perceived, not caring about what you're saying. You care about it, and that's maybe why you're getting a little nervous. That doesn't go away for many people, right? Before a keynote, before a talk, I still get a little nervous. And the best way for me to think about how to center myself, just take a second, calm down a little bit, and then realize what you're doing, right? How important it is, how great it is, right? You don't have to go up there and speak. You get to go up there and speak. You get to go up there and have a connection with folks. You get to go up there and discuss whatever topic it is you're discussing. And so part of that mindset shift helps a lot with the nerves and the anxiety, because fear is universal, right? Everyone, at a certain extent, and many folks, even to this day, senior leaders, senior officials, get nerves and anxiety. And if they don't, that's awesome, but that's not most people. And so that's me, how I approach it.
Yeah, that was, maybe I should approach it like that. For me, I think there's a couple pieces of the equation here. The first one, with regards to the mindset, is that nervousness and excitement are very similar. And I think about it as an opportunity to speak. That usually is enough to get me going. There are some situations in which I'm still a little bit nervous, and then it helps to understand why I'm nervous. There are some cases in which I'm nervous because I haven't prepared. There's a number of things with work where I don't know the numbers, I don't know the analysis, I don't know the customers that we've spoken to, I don't know why we're presenting this decision, I don't know who came up with the decision, yet I'm being required to justify it. So of course there's going to be some nervousness on my side. Oh, are they going to ask me X question? Are they going to grill me on Y? There's almost a certain comfortableness that you have after a while with that. It's almost like, sure, you can ask me whatever question you want. I've been in enough situations where people ask me questions that I don't know the answer to, where you figure out how to squirm your way out of it. You figure out answers that you can give. When you've been in the situation before and you recognize what that feeling is, you're able to attach a label to it, and just doing that helps you a lot. It's not just general nervousness. There's some specific cause of it that you can help isolate. The third thing that I would say around nervousness is also just to remember the stakes at which you're there. Most of the stakes are not actually that high that you're thinking about. Like, people don't actually care if you mess up or if you don't. And I think that's actually a very rewarding thing. It's a freeing thing. I could mess up right now. You probably would forget about it by tomorrow. It's not really a huge deal. So when you're giving a lot of the speeches, especially a lot of these speeches like at contests like North-South, I strongly encourage everyone, almost don't take it too seriously. Yes, it's important and you should do well, you should try your best, but it's also not the end of the world if things go sideways. And it's important to remember that in the grand scheme of things. This is one of those things where the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And And so it's only right that you're going to feel nervous for a while and to keep going at it. And after a while, that nervousness becomes something you look forward to.
Thank you both. Great things about the fear, which is normal, but how to overcome. Now I'm ready. You convinced me. What are the different ways that I can start this public speaking in our community setup, or in our schools, or the workplace? What are the different ways and venues, and how to start and gain the confidence?
This is a good question. I think I'm more qualified to answer this maybe 10 years ago. These days, I'm a little out of it. People throw all these acronyms at me about contests and say, hey, should my kid participate in this? And I legitimately have no idea what they're talking about. I think to me, there's two paths that you can take when you're thinking about opportunities. There's one path which is through the school. So most schools have some sort of public speaking contest. Usually they have multiple. They'll throw acronyms like UFBLA, DECA, HOSA. They're all, I would argue, they're all varieties of similar things where you have a school club that often meets maybe monthly, maybe bi-weekly, kind of go to the club meetings. I would argue don't really do much in the club meetings. Around February, January-ish, you have some maybe school level contest, maybe a regional level contest. Then there's some statewide contests a little bit after, some that are international contests later on. Do you get feedback in the process? Maybe, usually not. Do you understand what the rubric is? I never did. And that's kind of it. There's some which vary. There's a lot of Toastmaster Gavel clubs that I've been hearing about more recently. That's a great thing. It's kind of taking the Toastmasters model where your club meets more regularly and applying that to a high school level or sometimes even a middle school level. Those ones typically involve the sponsorship of adult Toastmasters helping out throughout the process. These are some of the more established tracks that I've seen. There are also contests, so you'll see that there's forensics, different varieties of it. So I was in Lincoln Douglas debate, which happens pretty often. There's public forum, congressional debate. There's also direct speech events like original oratory and extemporaneous speaking, and etc. These ones are more frequent. They have more feedback. The degrees to feedback vary. I can tell you that in debates, while the way in which you speak matters, it is not the single most important thing. So there's always some trade-offs with how you do it. I'm sure there's even more that I'm forgetting. But my point is that across all of these established tracks, there's some sort of trade-off that you have to evaluate. There's one side of the equation, which is these are all well-known, easy to pinpoint targets. If I tell you, hey, I'm this rank in debate at this level, you understand what that means in the grand scheme of things. The flip side is that I would argue that it's hard to necessarily grow in the ways that I described, because they're expecting a certain model. One of my favorite things that really just opened my eyes was, I once got penalized for not having note cards. Why is that a thing? It's so common and expected to have note cards in front of you when you're speaking that they just assume that I was less prepared, so I didn't even put the time to do note cards. But it's actually the flip side. Not having note cards is significantly harder than having note cards and reading off the note cards. So to me, it almost feels like there's an element of, I strongly encourage everyone, do all of the things that are available to you through the established paths, but don't index on it too hard if it's not panning out the way that you hope. And the flip side is that there are countless opportunities which are not these formally defined things that you can do. So one of the things that I used to do every year was asked to help MC the awards ceremony at my North-South contest, the regional contest level. And so through that, I was able to add some things here and there. I would talk about how North-South helped me. This was when I was in high school, so all the contests there were for middle schoolers. Those kinds of opportunities are where you really grow. So at Toastmasters, at the conferences, I would volunteer to be a speaker. And again, these are all situations in which you're able to go in, define your own path around what you're doing, what the objective is. Usually there's some convincing of the folks that are organizing and coordinating the event. And you're also able to understand what the feedback mechanism is, because you can go out and say, hey, I'm going to be talking about this. Here are some things that I'm working on. I would love to know your opinion on how I'm doing. So maybe you're working on body language. Is my body language better? Is it too strong? Is it not strong enough? These kinds of things. So long-winded answer, but the short answer is countless opportunities through schools and other institutions. You can also make your own. I recommend doing both.
So thinking about how to get involved, right, at an early age, the reason earlier I said I like to think about speaking more as an art than a science is because there's so many opportunities in which you can try to learn what to do, what not to do, how to do, skills and attributes that are successful, and skills and attributes that you shouldn't do when speaking, what's right, what's wrong. I don't agree with that. I learned early on that I really like the way certain people speak, right? I really relate to certain speakers, right? You ever watch a video or you see something on social media and you're like, wow, I can sense the impact that person is making. I had some of those experiences. I liked certain speakers, I didn't like the way certain people communicated and connected. And then you, trial and error, what works? Now it's about having those opportunities to do trial and error, right? That's the thing, how do you practice? And I know you had some great suggestions on different organizations to think about. I'm a big proponent of organizations like HOSA, FBLA, career and technical student organizations they're called, where at a school level, maybe depending on what school, high school, middle school, college you go to, they might have different levels of engagement. But I got very involved in leadership in those organizations at state and then most recently at the international level that exposed me and allowed me to travel nationwide and speak and do keynotes and connect with students, with educators. So it's about finding those opportunities, right? So Toastmasters, speech and debate, great opportunities. Admittedly, I was in speech and debate all but for a couple months in my first year of high school. It wasn't for me, but I see my friends who have been great in that program. For me, it was trial and error, thinking about how to authentically connect with people, not necessarily think about certain things I have to do when I speak, certain things that are no, don't do when you speak. Just genuinely, how do you build a skill? How are you able to talk to people? Right? Public speaking isn't all about getting up in front of an audience and learning how to give a big speech, because the next year, next 5 years, next 10 years, you're gonna have a job interview, right? You're gonna have a kid, right? You're gonna have a family, you're gonna have people that you need to be able to connect with and relate to and talk to and get along with. And it's a lifelong journey. And so these opportunities, anywhere you can get them, whether it's HOSA, FBLA, Toastmasters, speech and debate, North, South, just take it, right? Take it as a learning experience. And there's so much out there. Think about what you like when you see out there on social media. What is it that keeps you going? Or what is it that makes you proud? What is it that makes you so moved? And try to emulate some of that.
Thank you. So when they talked about speech and debate, my personal experience when we participated in the speech and debate in Canada, guess what? As a parent, I was being volunteered to be a judge. So if I have to be a judge, I have to watch some speeches or debates so that I get familiar. So thereby, he forced me, all of those programs force you to learn certain things and then go sit as a judge and then watch all these different debaters doing it. So it's like a win-win situation for everyone. So now, ways to start. Beautifully explained. How am I going to organize my speech? I have ideas, but it's very raw. If I record that and listen to myself, I will switch off within like 10 seconds. How am I going to, what are the different ways to organize a good speech? Then we will go to the delivery. Sometimes you guys are jump starting. So sequence, how to organize a good speech. Then we'll get into delivery.
I know you're involved with North South in this. Do you already want to speak about organizing a speech?
Sure, I can start. Typically, organization is taught as you have some intro, you have some middle that contains some points, typically 3 points, you have some end/conclusion. I think in the North-South rubric, we ask for out-of-box thinking along the way, which is that you have some sort of creative spin. Actually, at the end of the contest, if anyone's competing in the public speaking contest, I'll be going through how I think about the topics, how I design the topics. There's actually a process where we think about the topics as something that is approachable to all, in the sense that you should not require any particular background. So we're not going to ask you about the OPEC crisis in 1979 and expect you to understand the different implications of that event. We're going to ask something that's broad, but we also don't want to ask something that's too broad. We're not going to ask you, what is your favorite vacation? Because that's a little, it does not give the ability for what we believe are exceptional speakers to take the topic and apply some creative thoughts. With respect to that, one of the things that we like to do is at the conclusion, draw out to some larger idea, some larger thing that the audience takes away. There's almost always, even if you're giving an informatory or an exploratory speech, still something the audience can use or have some value in what you're saying. There's a couple other, I guess, more miscellaneous thoughts that I have around organization. One of the common things that you'll see in comedy is this concept of a callback. So the comedian will make a joke, then later on, they will make a reference to that joke, and that in of itself adds some humor to the part they're referencing. Typically, this is how most comedians end their sets. We also want to do things similar in public speaking. It's harder to make it necessarily a joke that connects back, but usually you have some introduction, you have in your conclusion a reference back to that introduction while also summarizing your body points. Typically, the way that we encourage people to write their speeches is in the order of thinking about your body points, then going to your conclusion, figuring out how you're going to end the speech, and then using that to then create your introduction for the speech. This avoids the common writer's block that happens when you're looking at the intro and trying to write it sequentially, but you don't know what you're going to talk about later, so it becomes really hard to pre-shadow and start with the introduction. A couple other things I would call out with organization. Sometimes folks go on these, what I would call stream of consciousness loops. It's a writing term where there are some writers in the 1900s who their writing style is to basically write things as they come to their minds. It's okay for reading in some cases. It creates an effect of some sort. I was not very good at the literature, so I actually don't understand the effect at all. But for public speaking, it's terrible. Usually the reason is that people are not reading what you're saying. They're trying to follow along and almost in many cases pattern match what you're saying to things they know. I'm sure everyone here has had some background with organizing some sort of written document, and you're probably pattern matching what I'm saying to how you think about that document to help you remember, or go, okay, I already know this, I can remember other things. Anything else that comes to mind? No, I think maybe one last thing I'll call out is a lot of the times we think about evidence when we organize the speech and we think about what things to include as facts and statistics and numbers. I would argue that most speeches probably index too heavy on these things. Numbers are great, and I think there are some shocking numbers that people really remember and walk away with. But if you throw in a lot of numbers, people don't know which numbers to remember. So you want to keep the amount of numbers short, and you want to tell stories. As Karthik mentioned, you want to be able to connect with your audience, figure out what matters to them, figure out what moves them, and emphasize those in a couple key moments throughout your speech, right? So I would encourage everyone, as you're thinking about the speeches you're writing, try to identify if there's just one thing, maybe two things, maximum three things that your audience is walking away with. What are those things? How can you connect to those? And don't overload it beyond those few key things.
Yeah, thinking about structuring a speech, number one is don't do too much, right? For all the students in here, I mean, we've had teachers who we really, really love, right? And we've had some teachers who we would have wished have taught a little differently, right? And what is it that distinguishes the structure of a talk with those talks that really, really move us, that we keep in our heads, and those that we forget, like you were saying, by the next day? The first thing is, don't do too much. You have probably, folks have now increasingly less and less attention span. And so the first thing you say, if it's normal, if it's average, if it's mediocre, well, that's what you then get back from your audience. A mediocre attention span, an average listen-in. And if it's something that's relatable, if it's something that you can point to as being a hook, that's very helpful. The rest of the actual structure, I think you hit on perfectly, is don't do too much, have a couple of key points, make sure it's clear what you want the audience to get. Sometimes you're going to have a rubric, other times you don't. So some probing on what is it I'm trying to get them to know. What is it that I'm trying to communicate helps structure your speech accordingly. I think you hit all the others.
Thank you. So we have an idea. We wrote a great speech. Now, how am I going to deliver? How am I going to keep the audience focusing on me? How am I going to make that it's all me at that stage when I go to great speech. Various techniques, how to keep the audience engaged, how to effectively deliver, what all the steps. Please.
I really like this question more because I think, no, to be completely, I
What's
don't.
wrong with the last question?
No, the last question was great. I think this I like more because you can write an amazing speech and it can be awful. You can write an amazing speech. Everything's perfect. It's written by a professional speechwriter. But then when it's delivered, you're like, oh, you know? You see some great lectures by, world-renowned scientists. And you're like, wow, I see some folks in the back sleeping, right? You could have a speech that's not so put together, that I think is rough around the edges, and maybe this is anti-Toastmasters, but it could be a little rough around the edges, but it could be delivered so well. It could be delivered so well. And there's a couple of things, right? There's, of course, your textbook, your intonation, right? Your ability to use hand movements not too much, your ability to walk around and connect with people. These are all the textbook things. But then there's a bit of, you have to smile when you need to. You have to show your emotion properly, right? What are you talking about, right? Do you smile? Are you serious? What does your face look like? Who's your audience, right? I mean, it's very different if you're talking to college kids, elementary school kids, adults, professionals. How are you able to then relate to them? Maybe there is some joking. Don't joke if you're not funny, right? Have some self-awareness, right? That's the biggest thing, is have some self-awareness on how you want to communicate. Are you taking pauses at the right time, right? And most of all, don't do too much. Again, don't do too much is my number one main thing, because you see so many people who are out like loud, like we'll do it. Don't do too much. There's some people who talk so fast. Again, don't do too much. Keep it simple. Relate, connect, be kind, and have the impact you want. That's it.
I think about delivery with respect to the attention span. So that is decreasing rapidly. I think that there's a few moments you have to capture that, and then the goal of your speech is to keep that. There's a reason I pause a little bit before I start any of my answers, and it's because I'm thinking about the words that I want to use, so I can say them with the confidence that I need to capture your attention. I think beyond everything else, this is the single most important thing that has helped me in any situation. So throughout college, if you can imagine, almost every lecture, every session, every presentation that you do, people go on their phones. And there's almost nothing you can do to stop them. You can give them all the pre-warnings you want. Oh, don't go on your phone. Don't go on your computer and do things. There are all these things. None of those are effective. The only thing that's effective is you start speaking in a way that commands their attention, that immediately indicates that you have authority, that you have confidence, you have the presence that is worthy of their time and their attention. And if at that point they continue to use their devices, well, that's fine. You have indicated what you're looking for, they have indicated that it's not a match, move on, nothing to worry about. That voice is so important because I think that is what makes public speaking public speaking. There's something about the way in which you talk. I think some of it is lost over the microphone when you give it virtually and when you're not there in person, but that, to me, is the root of the connection that you have with the other people you're talking to. Then it becomes, okay, let's add some style to it. So sometimes you want to add pauses. You want to avoid fillers. Don't break the connection that you have with your audience. Sometimes you want to talk really fast, and other times you want to talk slower. There's some variation in how you talk about things. There's good intonation. Usually I over-enunciate my words to make sure that everything I'm saying is clear to the audience. As Karthik mentioned, a lot of folks have a tendency to talk too fast. That's usually something that has to be worked on for quite a bit. I remember that's one of the things that I'm very guilty of, is relative to many speakers, I talk quite a bit faster. But if you notice, I also enunciate quite a bit more, and it's to help compensate for some of that. So there is no exact one method in which anyone delivers in terms of their voice, but a lot of it is discovery. And you don't have to go to people and say, hey, what are the things I need to improve on my voice? You should ask them more pointed questions. Did you understand every word I was saying? Was I talking too fast for you to comprehend what I was saying? Were you able to hear me all the way in the back? All these kinds of questions. So that's one part of the equation, is the things you're saying, how you're saying. There's another part of the equation, which is the body language you have, the non-verbal parts of the communication. There's this famous statistic about how 60-something% is all nonverbal. I don't really believe in the statistic. I think if I gave great body language, but I told you just complete nonsense, you'd lose all respect for what I was saying. So I don't think it's either or one or the other type of situation. I think it's both. I think they both play into each other. There's a lot of things where you can look at someone and realize, hey, they're a little uncertain about what they're saying, and the body picks up on that very quickly. If you round your shoulders, you gesture away from the audience, you look hesitant, you look uncomfortable, these are all things that indicate, hey, maybe you aren't sure of what you're saying, and the human body's looking for a reason to go do something else. There's also a component of body language that we're not showing, which is actually using the stage, walking around, these kinds of things. One of the things, and you should think this is a caveat, so Karthik and I come from different speaking backgrounds, so we have maybe slightly different perspectives on this. I think it's worth knowing where on the chart you are. And what I mean by that is, imagine there is some virtuous middle that you want to be at, where you're using the right amount of body language that accentuates your points. And your voice is great, your intonation is correct, you're loud enough, but you're not yelling, all these kinds of things. It's worth figuring out, okay, am I not doing enough or am I doing too much? And if you're not doing enough, so you are standing in some box format with note cards, and you are not moving around and you're not using the stage, perhaps it's okay for you to do too much. Perhaps it's okay for you to start pacing the stage. One of the things you'll see in beginner speakers is that they have the note cards in front of them, they have their arms boxed in, they're ready to box, and they're talking. They're just reading off the slide. Then you see the intermediate speakers who, they just do not stop walking. It is like they're trying to hit their steps for the day, they pace back and forth, typically between two spots, maybe a third if they're really adding some style to it. And then you see, finally, some speakers who find some blend in the middle, where they walk somewhere, they pause, they make a point. They go somewhere else, they transition across the room. Each point on the stage has some meaning. They come back to that point when they reiterate the same point again, when they do a callback. They make it a point to show that. I think that's about it for delivery. Perhaps there's other things that I'm forgetting. The biggest point, and the last point that I'd iterate, is that everyone's delivery will be slightly different. You might find that there are other things that work better for you, and the only way to find that is by experimentation. So don't take anything that we're saying as gospel as things that you must work on or that you must do, but try to figure out what are the things that you can do that you find work, and what are the things that, even better, you find don't work, because that also gives you some good signals.
Thank you. These delivery techniques, I would like to add a couple of things, right? The eye contact. So whether there's a 20 audiences of 20 or 200 or 2,000, everyone should walk out with the thought that, oh, this speaker looked at me and he spoke to me all the time. So how do you achieve that? You are not going to look everyone, right? So you take a glance and then you look at them, don't stare at them. You just, they have to have a feeling, yep, the speaker spoke to me. So that carries the value what they are doing. Now the pause, I just wanted to highlight one more thing. The pause is very powerful. If you look at some of the speeches, they'll be using like even in the office meetings, you can see in the meetings there will be a lot of ahs and ums. Why? Because they are trying to record what they want to say next. And at that time, they have a natural tendency that, oh, the audience is going to get bored, so let me make some noise. That's what they feel. That filler words will actually distract you. So the audience will lose it. But when they pause to recall what is going on in their mind, you can see that audience is hooked. They don't know what you are going to say next. So there is a surprise moment. When you pause, there is more attention. When you think that they are getting bored and fill up with the filler words, that contact will be lost. So those are just two things.
See, that's not fair, because he has a list of things that he wants us to cover, and if we don't cover them, then he jumps in, so you can see that we just missed 2 items.
No, I also want to show that I can talk. The next one, so we know organized, we are delivering. Now the audience, right? You mentioned know your audience. So there will be a lot of audience, different types of audience, like a scientists group, arts, students, and so on. So what are the different types of speeches that you can think of, and how to prepare for it? Is there any different techniques, tricks, presentations, like that? Different ways of.
So I'll let anyone speak to the different styles of maybe debate and other forms of speaking. But there's different types of speeches that folks give based on what they're trying to convey, right? You might have a very simple task if it's an assignment or if it's a competition. You might be charged to do something specific, like be persuasive or raise awareness or give a unfiltered, unbiased opinion or commentary. Or you might be charged to do something different. And it's based on what rubric and specification you get. Now in other settings, you might be in front of students, right? And you're trying to get something. Perhaps you are trying to get a leadership position. Perhaps you are trying to get folks to agree with you. And I think each of those has a different way and different mechanism by which you communicate, right? Because it's very different when you're just trying to say, hey, this is my report about this topic, versus I'm trying to seek your vote about a certain thing. And so there's different ways that I think you would communicate in all those settings. But at the heart of it comes still down to that one thing I mentioned at the beginning, is just how do you connect, right? In each of those settings, you're just trying to connect with your audience. And to your point, it starts with knowing your audience. And so you've been given a charge, maybe you haven't. Now you hopefully should know who you're going to speak to. And whether that's students, educators, adults, professionals, knowing a bit about them is very, very important. Have you done your research on who you're speaking to? Have you taken a chance to look at what they do or what motivates them, what they want? If you're speaking at an event, what is the event about, right? How do you relate to that event? How do you relate to where you're speaking? At the end of the day, you want people to buy in, right? You want people to agree and hopefully leaving feel that you have inspired and motivated them. And so doing all that research and doing all that prep work is very important regardless of any type of speech. I'll turn it over to you if you want to speak about certain types of communication and debate.
Yeah, I think for debate, there's, of course, different kinds of contests, and they all have their rules and their speech orders and lengths. I won't go into detail about that, mostly because I have forgotten all the specifics. But they will also train you on that, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. The part that I would emphasize is you always have to have an understanding of your objective when you're speaking. And there's always an objective when you're speaking. Sometimes the objective is as simple as, hey, I want to look good. It's not a bad objective. There have been countless speeches I've given where the sole objective is there's X person in the crowd, Y person in the crowd, and I need them to think that I'm good. Sometimes that's true. And so if that happens, the way that I'm delivering the speech, well, the points don't actually matter that much. It's all about the delivery. So then I start designing the points around the things that I know I can say and I can deliver well. Maybe I want to go out of my way to tell some jokes when I start out the speech, even though those may not be the best way to deliver the actual message that I'm having. Am I saying that every speech should be like that? No, of course not, right? Today in the North-South contest, your objective is probably, hey, I want to give a great speech so I get high marks on the rubric. It's a great idea, so you should look at the rubric and figure out how to give your speech. Perhaps you're at an event or a ceremony and you want to give a toast. Great, figure out what matters to the people that you are toasting. Highlight them, right? Don't make it about yourself. Don't go into all these random stories that you have that may not be relevant. Figure out, hey, what can I do to make this other person look great? And so I would always start with that as kind of the backdrop, as, hey, what is my objective in this? And the counterplay to this is who is the audience that you are delivering this item to, which usually goes hand in hand. So the example given in the prompt was, you're giving a speech to a number of scientists. So perhaps if you're giving a speech to a number of scientists, earlier I said all the facts and figures may distract the audience. Well, probably in that speech, that's exactly what they're looking for. And if you don't give them the facts and figures, they're gonna feel like you wasted their time. There's actually a very common thing where all the CS lectures at Berkeley, if you did not go into the details and the depths of how everything worked, usually students felt like, hey, your discussion wasn't good. So one of the things that I would do, even though it was the second class usually you take in the computer science track on data structures, I would just go into how the memory layout of the computer worked and where the data structure items were being stored as hexadecimal addresses. And I'd always give a caveat saying, hey, this stuff is out of scope and it's not relevant for what you're doing. But I found that that was the best way to engage with the audience because they wanted to understand why things were the way they were, and they were not satisfied with me just waving my hands and saying, accept this. I think the question was actually intended for me to go through persuasive information, what's the E? Expository? Yeah, see, I know there's a rubric, I just forget about it. The persuasive speeches, I think, are arguably the most common kind of speech that you will do. There's almost always some ask, something that you are trying to get your audience to believe in. Perhaps, like Karthik mentioned, this is a speech where you're trying to get people to vote for you, perhaps you're trying to get them to believe in a cause, a variety of things. I believe that the single most important part of that is you want to nail the call to action. So if I'm talking with a customer, for example, perhaps the call to action is, I want them to try out some feature. And you have to be very specific about what the call to action is. It's not enough to say, hey, I want you to try out X. You need to go a step further and say, hey, I want you to do this specific task. I want you to get your hands on the keyboard, I want you to click here, and I want us to come back and talk about this. Perhaps you're giving a different thing about your voting initiatives, right? Perhaps you could end with a call to action of just, hey, vote for me. But perhaps you want to go a step further. Hey, I want you to go check out these things that I published on my website that outline my plan for the next 90 days, and I want your feedback on it, right? I want us to follow up and I want to discuss it. For the informatory speeches, or information-based speeches, there's an element of figuring out what kinds of information you want to communicate to the end user, to what degree, to what depths. I would also argue that in those speeches, you're probably going to be going through a lot of content. It's very important to figure out, it's the recurring theme that we mentioned across the answers, what are the key points that you want to emphasize, right? Just 1 to 2 or maybe 3 things at max, kind of summarize with those. And I think the E is very similar. I actually never really understood the difference between the I and the E very well, but I think I'm about to be corrected, and there's actually maybe a huge difference. Is that true? No, okay, it's not true. Okay, good.
Thank you. So being honest is establishes credibility with the audience. If you don't know, you don't know. Don't try to make it up and give the wrong message or wrong detail. So like that, he forgot. So he just admitted, and he conveyed what he wanted to do. One of the other speeches, I'm going to take the mic in this case, impromptu level speaking, impromptu speaking, right? So it's like an elevator speech. So when you're walking with the executive or you are with Dr. Chituri, you are walking in and he's asking you a question. All you have is like a 10 seconds to gather all the information, right? And then give that. And try to impress that person. There is a reason why someone is asking you a question. So that impromptu thought process, it should come by practice. So then you respond. Your response time is what? Maximum 30 seconds to 45 seconds, that's all. So it's called like an elevator speech. So impromptu is another type of speech skill that needs to be developed. Thank you for going through all these things. Now we are at North-South Foundation. What are the opportunities, offerings available at North-South so that we can participate in North-South offerings and get benefit and also help raising the funds for the scholarships in India. So this is specific to what offerings we have in North-South.
I can take this one. I'm a little nervous because Dr. Chituri is in the audience, so if I forget anything, it's because of a lot of stress. We talked about the nervousness, all that, that's an excuse. I think the first thing that comes to mind, of course, are the contests. We have the regional contests, we have the national level contests. At the regional level, we have for both middle schoolers and high schoolers. At the national level, we have for high schoolers. I think everyone should compete in the contest almost always. I think one thing that you can do, even a step beyond, is try to figure out the timing for other contests and see if you can help with those as well. So for example, one of the things that I always liked doing was helping out in spelling bee. Perhaps there's someone that you need to read the rules, or in math bee. If you need to be the proctor, typically the math bee in the TAMA chapter was always done in an auditorium. So you need someone at the front of the auditorium to read out the rules, to answer questions, to go through all the things, to guide the room guides and the volunteers when you're handing out the papers. And that sounds to me a lot like public speaking. So to me, the first thing that I see with North-South, one of the great things is the contest, the ability to go and perform, try out new things, potentially, maybe even hopefully fail, try something new. The second thing is the coaching. So you'll see that we had coaching for math, for science, for spelling. We also introduced coaching for public speaking. And the coaching is, I'm a little biased since I helped make some of the curriculum, but I think we did a pretty good job of extracting some of the key elements. It's very similar to other coaching instruction material out there like Toastmasters. We put our own spin on it, and we try to make it as engaging as possible for students across a variety of levels. If I remember correctly, we have middle school level coaching, potentially high school as well. The third thing that I would throw out there is I believe we also have a variety of other initiatives like the Young Changemakers program. Anything else that I'm forgetting in that?
The contests, right?
I mentioned the contests.
I think, yeah, you pretty much covered. Thank you. So, with the time in mind, yeah.
Quick question. So how many of you are doing or have done the public speaking competition? Any raise your hands? Okay. If you haven't, that's the pitch.
There you go.
That's the pitch, right? To do it. I think both of us have competed in the finals, and that's a great opportunity. Great opportunity because it is partially impromptu in that regard. Because you get the prompt, you got to think about it, and then communicate and deliver. So that's a great plug to do it, to take advantage of the opportunity.
The one more thing that I will add is the students can participate in the public speaking coaching classes, and then they can become a tutors. So when they become a tutors, there is a two-way communication, and also parents. If you want to tutor, we are looking for the tutors. So there's a lot of kids signing up for the public speaking. So we need to have the tutors also. Please sign up, and we greatly appreciate that volunteering. We are approaching like the last 3 minutes. For adults, we touched upon many times on adults, what is available for adults, how they can improve the public speaking, and then the closing thoughts. We have ordered 2 minutes, 1 minute.
Do we have questions from the audience? Are there actually questions?
Oh, yeah.
Are we okay to just jump to those?
Okay, so yeah.
So I have 2 questions. I know you talked about, like in the high school, there's like FBA and other blocks that allow students for kind of prepare for speeches. Now in undergrad colleges, are there such associations or clubs where students can go and continue what they did in high school, maybe different means of clubs, but at least pursue their public speaking abilities? That was question 1. And question 2, I know you guys talked about the body language. If you don't mind demonstrating a little bit of the body language, because these I have no idea about them.
No, great questions. I'll take the first one, and I know you're itching to demonstrate, so I'll leave it. So, great questions. I think a lot of the times those organizations at Helios, middle school, high school circles probably run more predominantly. There are some that tie in and have a pipeline to undergrad universities. However, I think a great avenue, by the time you're an undergrad, you're starting to think about what discipline, what field you want to pursue as a student. Getting involved in those pre-professional associations in each of those industries have associations and conferences you can travel to whether it's present your work, present research, present a workshop, getting to connect with industry professionals. Those are those skills that I think is way more important, that you can integrate some of those public speaking tips and tricks while continuing to build professional connections and taking that forward. So I think that's a great avenue. I know we're short for time, but that's a quick high level.
For body language, I suppose I've been volunteered.
Yeah.
I think there's usually a few things that I like to emphasize. The first one is, I imagine there's a string on the top of my head, and it's being pulled up. So usually it means that you straighten your spine out, you open your shoulders a bit, you want to stand out to the audience. The next component to me is the way that your arms are moving. So you'll see that you typically want to adjust it to the size of the room. This is a moderately sized auditorium, so you'll see that I have some movement in my shoulders, but it's not the biggest room, so you don't see me going like this, because that feels a little out of place for this audience. There's a couple components here where you'll see me walking around the stage. One of the more advanced things that we can do is actually isolate a specific location of the specific idea. So perhaps here's where I'm talking about point A in my speech in the first part of the body. When I'm done with point A, I can almost walk and bring the audience with me as I transition to this next point, that maybe I pause here. One last thing I'll call out, is that the distance between you and your audience also matters. You saw that I stood up and I stepped closer to you, almost as though I was making a stronger point. there's also some cases in which I want to step back. Maybe I want you to take a moment and reflect on what I've said. Perhaps I pause. One common thing we'll do is when we end this speech, we'll typically want to end it more forward. So we end it here, you make some strong point, great, and then you go back and you sit down.
Thank you, that was wonderful.
Thank you. Close again.
I heard the public speaking that people take voice modulation. Voice modulation has been implemented. Could you comment something about that, or have you had any experience about that?
I'm a big proponent of knowing, like you're saying, changing tone throughout and modulating.
Correct. Or
Yeah.
modulating it.
Yeah. I think it's very beneficial because if your goal is to connect and relate and get your point across, doing it consistently is sometimes you lose that attention span, right? You lose that attention from your audience. And so how do you emphasize certain things? Do you match it with your body language and your hand motions and then change it throughout? If you're always on a high or always on a low, maybe not as effective. So if you change it up throughout, I think is definitely more engaging.
Maybe one thing that I can throw in there that's perhaps something that's like a drill almost that I've seen work pretty well. You want to have your words sound punchy. Sometimes you'll notice that people have this drone in their voice. So it's kind of like they're droning, and then at the very end, their vocal cords manipulate that drone into a word. And what happens is it becomes very hard to understand the individual words that they are saying. It also creates this element of monotony in what they're saying. So it kind of feels like they're just literally droning on. One of the things that you can do to help is you put a pen in your mouth, and so you clench your teeth on it, and then you try to talk through that. There's like variations of this. You can try to talk backwards, you can insert words between words, you can go pretty far with this. But the idea is that you're separating and making it hard for your jaw to move and still pronouncing the words, so that when you remove it, it improves your enunciation. So there's even things, I would argue, that go beyond modulation to just the everyday nature of saying, things that you can use to increase your clarity.
Voice modulation is very important. So, for example, I whisper in her ear, or I'm going to scream at you. So that gets the attention. There's no.
The question is how to go about it, how to train this particular.
Typically, the way that I would encourage is fail a few times. That's probably the best way to do it. You want to try going really all out. It's like you're in a play, you're in a theater act, and someone is going, why are you so much into this? And then you dial it back. It's hard to incrementally step your way up and just nail it on the first try. You almost always have to overshoot. Exactly.
Yeah. Emulate, like I said earlier, emulate those speakers who you really, really appreciate and you see that they're doing it well, right? Everything is so accessible content, so learn by, example is, I think, very helpful.
Thank you. So, due to our timings, thank you, Karthik. Thanks for all the. Thank you all. Hope this session helped you from a multiple aspects point of view. But please attend our public speaking contest from 10:15. The contestants will be giving speeches. So we need more audience. More audience is the merrier. Then it will be great for the speakers to have a great experience, and for the judges to have a tough time. These judges, they are going to have a tough time too. Thank you.
Thank you, Sampath, Anirudh, and Karthik. And year after year, they very passionately come and do all these sessions and then promote all the public speaking. So, big hand to all these people for doing this for us. So, we are going to switch gears, going to the next session on young change makers. We need some help with projecting.
Oh, he said to Brendan. He came and sent some guy, some white guy named Brendan in the comments. Brendan?
James.
I don't know. He just said some white guy.
Somewhat, okay, yeah. He's gonna help us?
Yeah.
Do you want to use a clip-on mic or either one? It's fine, but yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hi everyone, my name is Sriram. I'm from Young Changemakers. There's a lot of empty space in the front. You can all come in.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interactive discussion, so please join.
Let me introduce you. And then, while we are setting up the projectors for the presentation, we move on to the next topic on Young Changemakers journey. We all know North-South is well known for contests or coaching, but this is one of the very important phases of our organization is promoting entrepreneurship. And these Young Changemakers are the ones who are educating the middle schoolers and high schoolers to become an entrepreneur and then how to do a service to the society, all those things. So to talk about this, we have Sriram Penya. He's an adult mentor for Young Changemakers journey. He's passionate about helping young people develop the character, leadership, communication, compassion, and life skills needed to thrive. He's committed to the empowering of the next generation to lead the purpose, reliance, and desire to make the meaningful impact in their communities. Okay. So, without much further ado, I'll have Sriram to talk to you about Young Changemakers program.
So keep lights on. Yeah, keep it on. Yeah. So, hi everyone. Nice meeting you. My name is Sriram. Like 8 years ago, we were sitting there when Dr. Chituri and Bill Drayton was presenting us our Changemaker program, right? Before we start, I'm going to ask, there's a small interactive session. Let me have a quick show of hands. How many people ever looked at around your school, neighborhood, or community, and you thought, I wish this was better? Right? Now keep your hands up. Now, if you ever found that you're hoping that someone else will fix it, right? You still, finally, how many have stopped and asked yourself, if I could be that person that would start change, right? So we all have to be that change maker. Now, I have another question, and I'm going to get a presentation up. I want you to talk to the one who is sitting with you and find what is that one change that you want to see in your community. Just if you all have it, keep that thought for your thought. I'm going to run a small video that Ashoka has created for us to describe what a change maker is. But I don't have internet, so we'll skip this slide. And I'll quickly talk about, actually I can get this.
How many people in your school, company, community are change makers, and why does it matter? The old game was efficient but repetitive. Today, machines do most of that for us. The world is changing fast. A global mind shift is happening. Innovation in technology is connecting us more than ever before. We're sharing more and working differently as the next generation pioneers the jobs of the future. The status quo is no longer enough. It presents a new inequality. Those with the skills to thrive and those without. What matters is how we evolve and create change. Technology may drive the how, but change makers drive the why. Let's transform how we learn, work, and live together in a dynamic team of teams. Empathy for the good of all. Teamwork, fluid and open. New leadership where all lead. And change making, transforming your world however small or big. We can all grow up knowing we are change makers. So we can create a more equitable, happy, and healthy world. Where everyone is powerful, has the skills to solve problems, and enables others to lead and thrive. Let's lead the Everyone a Changemaker movement together. Ashoka, everyone a changemaker.
So, in 2017, right, Dr. Chituri, we were there in this auditorium, something in University of Maryland, and Dr. Chituri and Bill Drayton presented to us the vision of Changemaker. And the first Changemaker cohort that started out of it was hugely successful. That team worked together to raise $50,000 for disadvantaged kids who didn't have access to computers. So Devices Initiative, when they raised the money, the North South Foundation matched it, and they were able to help lots of Title I schools with the required devices. Since then, we have been continuing the program, helping kids learn the change-making skills, and this program gives them framework to learn how to become a change maker, right? I'm going to talk a bit about the program, very quick presentation, and after that I'll take questions from you, asking what the program is about, what are the requirements, whether you can be part of it, both adults and youth. So the program is designed as a one-year structured program which uses Ashoka framework for understanding how to become a change maker. The framework is a very simple 6 to 7 step process. So the most important part of the journey is identifying a spark, what ignites you to become that change maker. And to do that, what we do is we interact with the kids to find what they are good at, what are their skills, what their passion is. We sit down and ask them to reflect what they want to do to see the world a better place. Then we ask them to go into the community, look where they feel that's something that they want to change, that's something that they want to make it better. Once they identify that problem that they want to work, they're then going to go and research more about it. They're going to talk to end users. They're going to talk to people who are specialists in that field. They're going to get more info and define the problem. And once they define the problem, understand what they can get all about that problem that they're going to fix, they're going to go into drawing board and create an action plan how they can address that problem. Once they do that, we encourage them to take that first action. We call it as a first step. They go into the community, they go and take that action. And when they do, they understand what all things good went well, what all things could have been done better, what all things that they could do it differently when they do it in future. And by doing, they learn lots of things. They learn design thinking skills, they learn teamwork, they learn leadership, they learn how to create an event, they learn how to, lots of skills that they do as a part of the first action. Once they complete their first action, we encourage them to write a story, present a story, what they did. So they then create a video and they pitch in front of the judges about their program. That is their first year. But the change making doesn't stop in 1 year. This is a lifelong process. We encourage them to continue doing what they've done every year for the rest of their life. They can change the idea or passion or the problem that they're going to solve, but they will do this using the framework for the rest of their life. So that's what we say. You keep on doing the action that brings the change, and you get appreciated because you're telling your story, and that story will bring more people into your team, are able to join your team. That's when you become either a social entrepreneur team or a company or a non-profit, and eventually you become a change maker citizen, right? So with that, the program itself that we do is the North South program is 1 year structured program. We work mainly at the first 2 steps, which is identifying the spark, doing the first action, and we come to a stage where we review and present those in the form of a pitch or a video. And that's done through a monthly cohort meetings, reflection group sessions that happen on a regular basis for a course of 1 year. So we start during September, October, we finish by the next year, September, that 1 year cohort. And the kids who have completed this journey, they join back with us to become youth mentors, because it's the youth that train the new generation of change makers. We're only helping them facilitate the youth to teach other youth. Beyond first year, you continue your journey, you keep on doing what you've done, you improve your project, or you do a new project, or you change, you pivot, but you continue to do things that improve your society, improve your community. See what makes your life better at the same time your neighborhood's life better, right? So what we offer is a structured guidance, youth entrepreneurship, mentorship, and a community of all change makers. So we have right now up to almost 100 completed change makers through this course that are actually doing their own project on top of North South projects that actually made a difference to the community. I have some videos I'll share, some of their presentations. The commitment for this program is not a lot. 1 to 2 hours weekly to learn the framework. When you start your own project, it can take longer, like you can spend whatever the time you want to spend on the project. And the monthly meetings happens mostly second Sunday of each month. You must be open-minded, collaborate with lots of peers, both youth and adults, that are able to help you go through your journey. Share your ideas, attend all the reflection groups. That's a major commitment. And the skills, there are a lot of things that you learn. I've seen kids learn their product management, creativity, leadership skills, speaking, public speaking, right? Design thinking is core to our program, right? Resiliency. Many times they pivot. They start thinking one project. When they actually go into the helping people, they realize that that problem doesn't actually is not what they need to address. They pivot. So they understand failure is stepping stone for success. They don't take it and take back. Those are all things that you learn if you go through this project. And our aim is eventually everyone hopefully has their own social entrepreneurship position, whether they have their own company, whether they have their nonprofit, or whether they are in a big company but able to provide that change within the organization. So you are right fit if you think you have a strong desire to create a better world, you're willing to develop your passions, if you enjoy working in a team, and your actions are guided by empathy. I'm going to quickly show you, I'll put this QR code again, but I'll show a couple of videos of previous change makers, and we can go through Q&A, all questions about the program.
My name is Aditi Karthik, and I'm a rising manager. Over the past year, I've been working as a change maker, and I'm really excited to share my journey with you. My project focuses on financial literacy, a skill that's incredibly important in today's world. Earlier in the year, I conducted empathy interviews and discovered that many kids in my community don't understand the basics of money. That realization motivated me to dive deeper and educate myself, as well as others around my community. Through my research, I explored key areas like budgeting, saving, spending, interest rates, taxes, and more. I also came across some powerful statistics that just showed how big the gap in financial education is. Financial literacy teaches people how to manage money effectively, reducing reliance on high-interest loans and promoting savings and investment. New Jersey is ranked 25th in financial literacy with a score of 59.65, just above the national average, but far below the recommended score of 70. Many people lack education to financial literacy due to limited school programs, cultural taboos about money, or fear of complex financial systems. These facts help me understand how urgent it is the need is to teach these kids. That's what inspired me to create a beginner-friendly lesson, just the first step towards a much bigger goal. To start, I researched key money topics using trusted sources and real-life examples. I created a lesson that built clear, engaging presentation that explained the basics in a way that was easy to follow. I then shared this with a small group of Girl Scouts and got to see firsthand how they responded and engaged with the material. On the next slide, the results of the session can be visualized. This experience taught me so much. I learned how to organize my thoughts, plan ahead, and create lessons that are both informative and easy to understand. I realized that financial literacy is a gap for people of all ages, not just kids or teens. Teaching others even helped me grow more confident in my own knowledge. And even though it started with a small group, I saw how it could lead to a much bigger impact. Getting feedback from others also helped me show how I could improve and make my work stronger. As I continue this project, I want to help and come up with new and creative ways to spread financial literacy. My goal is not only to teach people in my local community, but hopefully expand my message even further. To do this, I plan to create flyers, social media posts, and other tools to raise the awareness. I also hope to lead seminars and community events that teach real-world skills in a fun and easy-to-learn way. Thank you for listening.
So Aditi has completed her project last year. She's continuing to do her project as she is helping change maker project as well. So she's come back to teach other change makers as a youth maker. But she also continues her project because that's the change maker project. She'll continue to do for just her life, maybe a variation of it. That's the passion. She continues to do it. I'll show one more, and then we can take questions about the program itself.
Hi, my name is Freya, and this is my change maker project. My family and I have always loved dogs. We adopted a dog 15 years ago, and it was one of the best decisions we've ever made. Our dog is really goofy, sweet, amazing, and positively good. She is a big part of my family. But I know that many dogs don't get that chance because most people don't adopt shelter dogs. Some dogs stay in shelters for months and live without finding a home. And that's how I knew I had to do this. When I started researching, the numbers shocked me. I learned that 5.8 million cats and dogs enter shelters each year, nationwide. Around 700,000 shelter animals are euthanized per year. Of those, about 400,000 of them are dogs. I also talked to some people in my community. Some of them did not know that adopting was an option. They also assumed that shelter dogs were aggressive or damaged. And that's when I knew that my project was going to be raising awareness. My actions. My first action was to make a blog. I wrote about my dog, my project, and included numbers and statistics. My other action was when my friends and I passed out flyers at a big event in my city. The flyers had QR codes that led to our local animal shelter's website for more information. While passing out the flyers, I was able to talk to many people. Many thought shelter dogs were strange or dangerous. I think a lot of people just never knew how great
It looks like there was a missing, but Ria continues to help shelter dogs. She is raising awareness. She's not a youth mentor, but she continues to do her project at her own time. This is what is all about chain makers. Chain makers are chain makers for life. They don't stop after they've completed this project. They continue to do what they're doing because that's their passion. It's not someone else that told Ria to go and take care of the dogs because she cared about the dogs. And that's why she's doing it. And that's what we encourage when they come to Young Change Makers. Identifying your spot is the most important thing we focus the kids to do because when they like, whatever they like in terms of their passion, we don't have to tell. They will do it for the rest of their lives. With regards to Young Change Makers, I'm going to put a QR code. That's a link that takes to a Google form. We have an information session coming up in August 30th. So if you scan and fill your information, we will send an email about the information session. But I can take questions about the program.
Maybe you could show this picture on the screen.
I'm not really sure. Maybe you could ask him to search it up. Yeah.
Show this picture on the screen.
I'll search.
Just say, Bill Gates.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining and appreciate it. Change making is an idea that should be pervasive. Every day, see something you don't like. Everything, neighborhood, here is something here. Piece of paper on the floor. It doesn't belong there, right? You pick it up. You don't say, oh, janitors will come, they'll fix it, right? You take the initiative. And you throw it, waste basket, right? So it's a discipline that you develop, right? If you're conscious, you see that. You see everywhere something is not right. The major ones I'll tell you, major ones, right? Does anybody like gun culture in this country? Raise your hand. Right? We don't like gun culture. Do we like drugs? Raise your hand. No. There are a lot of course, these are major things, but there are things that are local, right? That I had about 10 years ago, when we started this program. It's amazing. The kid was less than 10 years. Less than, of these kids here, is there anybody that's less than 10 years? Good, thank you. So he's less than 10 years. He said, I want to serve seniors. I don't know how he got the idea. He said, less than 10 years. I want to go and help with seniors. Go there, talk to them, see what they need. Can I help them? You know, that's a wonderful cause, noble cause, right? And so there are things like that. We all watch it, and we don't. Unfortunately, in the busy schedule that you saw earlier, we're all busy with the cell phones, we're busy running this. So we don't reflect on things we watch. We don't like it, and we don't do anything. Right? Things status quo goes on and on. So somebody has to take the initiative. That's the whole idea of change making. Change making is all of us, every one of us can be a change maker. Right? And here is a man. His name is Dr. Bill Drayton. Yeah, Dr. Bill Drayton. He's an amazing person, amazing. He went to Harvard, became a lawyer, then he went to McKinsey. From McKinsey, he was deputed under President Carter, one of the deputy administrators. Then after that, 1980, he came out. Then he started thinking about doing something. He didn't go back to McKinsey. He could have gone back to McKinsey, make a lot of money. No, he said, he thought of the idea of social entrepreneurship. In one of the slides earlier that Ram showed, it had a social entrepreneurship. We all know about business entrepreneurship, right? You go to MBA schools, you have training sessions, workshops, startups, money flowing. So there's a lot of support system to how to start a business. But there is nothing for social entrepreneurs. Suppose you want to work in a non-profit, social entrepreneurship. There's nothing there. He is a gentleman. We all owe it to him. He started the idea of social entrepreneurship to selecting people, give them money. Give them money for 3 years, give money to survive, eat bread on the table. And then after 3 years, the social entrepreneur on his own, on her own. For the last 40 plus years, he funded 4,000 social entrepreneurs across the globe. Many of them in this country. Right? And after 40 years, you think somebody copies it. Nobody copied it. It's still the only organization, Ashoka, organization that still does it. Hats off to him, hats off to his organization. Right? And then he thought the idea that everybody cannot be a social entrepreneur. Just like everybody cannot be a business entrepreneur, right? I'm the worst business entrepreneur in the world. Okay? So everybody can be, because it takes certain mindset, certain things in you to make that person. So he said everybody cannot be a social entrepreneur. So how about everybody can be a change maker? Little bit, right? Everybody, all of us can be change makers. And that is the concept he started. He's promoting around the globe. And he's the one person that does the walk the talk. Right? We all say that. Yeah, we all talk. but you need to walk the talk. And he's the person who did it, change making, and we loved it. And please join, join your children. We can do it as a child, we can do it as an adult, it doesn't matter, no age. Right? We can change things, we can bring change. That's what democracy is all about, right? When democracy works, if every citizen participates in that process, in that democratic process, then it will work. The same thing, if everybody is a change maker, we can make this world a better place, And so I embrace it, I use that in the projects that I have, a change maker program, and we're doing some rural development program. In fact, fortunately I set up an endowment at Ashoka. Through that endowment, we have a project in India to build model villages. And there's an organization in New Delhi called Connecting Dreams Foundation, CDF. And that foundation gets the funding. And what they do, they empower young children, youth, could be teenager to 25 years old, 30 years old. They empower them. Just last weekend, for 5 days, they had a boot camp. Exactly what Ramesh showed in that screen. What do? Right? First, think of an idea, ideation, they call it. Right? Go to the step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. So they got 50 kids, 50 youth in 25 villages. And then it's a 6-month program, 6 months hands-on, and they are trying to empower them to bring change in their own village. Think of some ideas, right? Just like Ram was talking about. Think about alcohol, child labor. Right? Some idea in the village how bring improvement. And so they're helping them. So this change making is a wonderful concept. Please spread the word. Contact Ram, and it's a wonderful program. This is one of my favorite programs in Northwell Foundation. One of the programs. Another one is we have Universal Values program. See, change making is connected to values. If you don't have values, right, you won't be successful in change making. Right? It has to come from the heart. Right? The values come from where? From the heart. Values don't all come from the brain. Right? What the brain wants you to do, make money. Right? And do this power or whatever. But the heart makes the difference. Heart tells you. Right? If somebody needs money, somebody's hurting, then you help. So we need to thank you for asking me to come here, share a few thoughts. If you have any questions, I'm a big fan of change making. If you want to contact me, my email address is Chitturi, CHITTURI 999 You just, or Google it. Google and Karnataka Foundation, my phone number, and I will help you anytime. If you want to call me Sunday, fine. It doesn't matter. 9 o'clock at night, fine. 7 o'clock in the morning, fine. Because it's my passion. We need to do this. That's what Ashoka, Dr. Bill Drayton, amazing guy. I met him. If you go into Arlington, Virginia, that's where he is. Please meet him. You get inspired. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chitturi. I think we are indebted to you because 7 years ago, Dr. Chitturi was on the stage presenting it. My wife took this along with my son in the first cohort. And since that 7 years, we've been part of the entertainment program. Like I said, almost 100 people. We had a lot more registrations, a lot more people joined the program, but we have 100 kids who completed, and many of them have done some individual project. And we have more people coming. We have a virtual online program. We are also starting local chapters. First local chapter has been working in Northern Virginia. The online program is people meet in virtually via Zoom once a month. We meet a lot more frequently in a small groups, like in reflection groups. And we are trying to gradually expand this program across the whole US, whether it's virtual program or in person, where the kids can meet their group locally. So Dr. Chituri, hopefully in 10 years time, we'll have all across US, the small chapters of change makers from north south. So that's our dream. Okay. So with regards to the program, we have an info session on August 30th virtually. If you scan the code, we'll send you an email invitation for the program. But you can ask all the questions here as well. We have another 20 minutes before the next program. If you have any questions with regards to the program, who is eligible, what does it mean to be part of the program, please, you can ask the question.
Is it a minimum age?
So we normally recommend the middle school and high schoolers to be the part of the program. When they're elementary school, we have as young as 9-year-old, like Dr. Chituri said, in the first cohort, like a kid who actually, Raj, I remember his name, he wanted to have the elderly, right? But from middle school, it actually feels much more easier. It's because when you start reflecting what your skills, your passions, it might need you to be slightly older to be able to reflect yourself. When you're young, it eventually becomes a parent project, so we don't normally want that. We want it to be the kids' project. So, other question frequently asked is, like how much time do I have to spend? And we already put on the screen. It's approximately 1 to 2 hours, especially for learning the framework. It's not a lot, right? We have one monthly meeting, and during other parts of the month we have reflection group. Mostly it's trying to have the discussion, hand-holding, to learn the skills. For example, a skill would be, like we are talking about researching, right? Researching involves empathy interviews. Empathy interviews, what we do is we actually go and talk to the end user who's suffering the problem. So those skills that we impart by discussion process. So we encourage them to say, okay, what are the questions you're planning to ask? Why are you asking that question? Why would that question make you understand more about the problem? So those things, that's how we interact with the kids to make them understand what they're trying to choose. Because you can't choose a problem. Normally we don't say you have a solution and then go and choose a problem. That actually tends to, people fall apart. So we actually do a lot more reflection and discovery initially, and then try and see how we can fix that problem or take that action.
And is there a particular time you have to join or anytime?
So it's a yearly cohort. The next cohort for this year is going to be, the registration opens the end of August. We have 1 month for registration. There's a registration fee of $150, and our next cohort starts in October.
So right now it's open.
Like information session, the registration is not open. We only have it open for a month.
Okay.
They get filled. We have a limit of 50 for virtual and 10 for in-person in North Virginia. So if you're living in North Virginia, you can utilize that in-person sessions. The virtual one is only 50 limit for the seats per year. So once after the information session, we'll send you the info how to register.
So it does cost $150?
Yeah. We initially did it for free. There were lots of registrations, but many people didn't show up. That's why we put the registration. It's not that we would use for anything. We actually try and give it as a seed money at the end. as a prize when they pitch the program.
Once you do a project, how do you measure like the impact of like how much it's actually helped or how it's changed something?
So we always ask when they are making that action plan to solve the problem, to also find that indicators that they can measure. So for example, the Aditi's project, when she was looking at the financial literacy, she would done pre-training interview survey and a post-training survey. We have another kid who is doing a 3D print project, right? He's also doing a pre-training survey and then a post-training, how they have improved. And it changes with each project. So a kid been working on bike hangers. There were none present in his community, so he set up 2. And then he asked people whether they would use that bike hanger frequently. So he got, for a day, at least 4 or 5 people used it. That was his indicator for that project. So it depends on the project, but we have with that discussion, we have like during that action plan, we talk about what you're going to do, how you're going to do, how you're going to scale it up, who is your team member, how you're going to assess whether your intervention is working, right? If it doesn't work, that's fine. We're going to go back and rewrite the action plan and we'll do it again. And then we'll check. So I hope you kids, you are interested to join. This is a great opportunity. I think it'll give you ideas like once you complete Young Changemakers, you can actually continue to be a youth mentor, train others to become Changemakers. That's even better in terms of how you're able to train, right? I've seen youth mentors improve from being very timid presenting to actually leading the meetings, leading the presentations, leading the training by the end of the year. So on top of being a change maker, you're also understanding how do you project manage, how do you lead a team, how do you sit down and chair a meeting, how do you actually teach others the change making concept. Each concept, like how do you talk to people about explaining empathy, right? All these things was part of this change makers program. It's not about academics at all. It's all about how you can make a change, how you can be a better person. Like Dr. Chituri mentioned, it depends upon your core values, what you want to do, your passion, and what you wanted to see the change in the world, how you want the world to be a better place than what it was before you touched it. Thank you all for the opportunity to come and present. We are hoping to do this so that we get lots of youth. We also need adult mentors. Adult mentors, if you're interested, if you do the same sign up, we are having a training program for adult mentors as well, twice a year, a 6-week program, so that you know what we do, how we are training the people, and then, like I was talking to Dr. Chituri, we can spread it all across United States, multiple chapters of, let's say, right now in Northern Virginia we can only do 10 kids, but we want to do 30 kids group. But we need lots of volunteers. Thank you.
So this is very interesting topic. Move on to the next program we have on the schedule. That's another most important activity of Northsouth Foundation. This is about the learning journey and what we offer, what we do, and all those things. You're going to be there.
Yeah.
So, you?
No.
So we will, you need a project?
Yeah, I'm waiting for my dad is supposed to.
Is he coming?
I mean, he should. I will text him.
Because he said I'm going to send Nehar.
Yeah, he just told me. Yeah, I'm waiting for you.
Okay. Yeah, we have about 10 minutes
I
break,
get lots of-
so we will start the next program on learning journey. It's a really very important session.
Oh, yeah.
Because they are,
Yeah.
previously we used to just
Yes.
do the coaching on workshops and the contests, but it's now a full-fledged coaching program from grade 1 to grade 12. So here is the one place we can get the whole information and ask questions to the person who is engineering the whole thing. So hang in there for a few minutes and then we'll start. It's easier.
I'm right here.
Okay.
Got me last week.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
There's some more stuff going on with spelling. It's
I know, yeah.
That's why I think it's going on.
This is one.
Yeah, a little bit higher up. Yeah, either touch the shirt or the. Yeah.
Where's the?
Yeah, that's not. Oh, yeah.
You heard it.
Yeah.
How do we swap into the profiles? It's fine, right?
Yeah, that should be fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I want to mute it, wait.
I don't think there's any.
Off.
Yeah, you can just off it.
Okay. Thank you. Let me off.
Yeah. I don't think my voice is any note.
May not slice hands.
My voice.
No, they're also recording and you're,
Oh.
yeah, so. Better to know.
I think it's showing very well. Okay. This is bad. It needs new batteries. I think it was like showing red. I think that. I think it's fine.
Because I don't hear when I tap. I can also use the mic.
Oh, yeah, you can use this mic.
Yeah. Wait, I'm doing until.
It's plugged in.
Yeah. You still on this one?
We're looking to speak about us.
Yeah. You still on this one? Okay. It says minus. Yeah, there's that test.
presentation on that?
Yeah, I'm trying to make it full screen.
No, yeah, right,
It is.
Try to right click there and see if there are options. Yeah, do left and so reverse one side. Oh, you did it. Yeah, 10:30, right? Yeah. So we can, I don't know if plans are ready. So you have I can let them know outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you need, you just take it out.
Can I use that one that's not attached? Is that
You could use that one. This one that isn't connected to anything.
okay?
But I got the battery working on this if you want to use it. I changed the battery.
Take this because I'm very nervous.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can.
Yeah.
It will,
Yeah.
even the mic will scream.
Yeah.
The pitch is very high.
Yeah.
Just maybe this slide where should you see that's like one program pages? Do you want to just talk about like
Yeah, sure.
maybe
Okay. Where are you recording it? Yes?
Yeah, it's live streaming right now.
Live stream. Okay, so will it be recorded like later on?
Yeah, yeah. You should be able to see it later on.
Because a lot of parents will ask for it.
Yeah.
Okay, then I can edit it. That's okay.
Yeah, there'll be like a link and it has all the things. You could just find that specific like time portion.
Because most of the parents start asking later to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they'll share the link, but it should just be on like the North South Foundation YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me write it down.
Yeah.
Yes, I know that parents, I had like 20 parents asking.
Yeah.
That's the issue number. Dr. Chittari, good morning. Good afternoon. Let's sit down, sit down. Hi, how are you? Meena.
Yeah, what is the last name?
Radhakrishnan.
Oh yeah, I have your name. So much for everybody.
Yeah.
Arun Mahesh.
Thank you.
You're from where? Atlanta?
Dallas.
Oh, from Dallas.
Sure.
I
Yeah, they have
really
it
like
here.
working.
They have.
My son had a system juvenile arthritis when he was young. When he was young, he had a systemic juvenile arthritis. Yeah, it was not arthritis, like it affects the body from time. So he got remission in 8th grade. So I was thinking like so many people will not be able to afford, and I didn't know whether my son will come into remission, and I wondered what we need to do. And we were also going into debt because I was not stressed and debt. So I like lots of foundation helps people. That's why I joined. So what am I saying? My son is in remission. He's in UT Austin. He's in third year college, Austin. He is going to go. He's going to come because he's applying for medical school. So he's applying next week. So he's, they have a deadline. Yeah, they have to finish in 2 weeks. So he has to write 4 or 5 essays per college. And he's applied for 50 colleges, so he's going crazy. He said chance 5% acceptance rate is there. So
welcome everybody. We will start our next session. This is going to be one of the most important activities of North-South Foundation. We are all known for contests, but we are also gearing up and even upping the contest with coaching everywhere from grade 1 to high school and then beyond. So we have here Mr. Narayan Janga, who is the coaching czar, and he has developed this into a great program, and he has done so much for this and benefited so many kids. We are doing year-round coaching and all those things. So we also have Nihar here and Dr. Meenakshi. So they will talk about the coaching programs, learning journey. So I would like to invite Mr. Narayana to introduce his co-hosts and then talk about the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Master. Are we recording the session?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, you are. Thank you. It's important. So, this introduced me as a coaching yard. I'm just one of the parents, just like you, who has been with NASA for 25 years. So, I was in your shoes 25 years ago. And I have Dr. Meenakshi with me. Dr. Meenakshi is actually a medical doctor in India, but right now she is full-time helping NASA with our coaching programs. She is in Dallas. She has connected with schools. She is Khan Academy certified. She also works with College Board, the AP programs and all. So all the rules, what is going on, the digital SAT, everything, like she is our expert, the expert, and this is something she is doing out of passion full time. So she is here. And last year Nihar is my son. And for those of you who don't know Nihar, Nihar is in Guinness Book of World Records for winning spelling bee at 11 years. That was done in 2016, and that was not done for 100 years before then, and now he is still the youngest spelling bee winner. And also, that was with NASA in 5th grade he won. Then he went to Geography, National Geography. They are not doing that contest anymore now. National Geography, the magazine, the big magazine that writes about wildlife and all these things, and nice, cool pictures, all these things you see everywhere, right? National Geographic. Any of your interest in geography, they are the source, like, for everything. They have their own scientists, they do experiments, they do a lot of things. So he did Geography, and 2019 he won National Geography also, all the way in Washington DC. So he's the only kid ever to win both the championships. And that record will stand because the National Geography is not doing that program anymore. So there is but with all that, it all started, and he's going to Stanford now. He's in his 3rd year. And it all started with NASA. Like me, he's also, the kids that sitting here, he was like one of you back then. And this organization helped us, our family. And my daughter also did very well. She went to UPenn and she's working now. But they have been NASA kids since very young. So from what we learned, the mistakes we made, all these things, like we had our coaching program, And I took over coaching in 2020, and then the mistakes our family learned as we were going through their lives and all. We thought we could help other parents learn from our mistakes and give them some guidance direction. So we started changing our coaching program a little bit, keeping holistic learning in mind. And Nehal will talk about what that is, and then that's why we are here. And then with that, I think I will give the mic to Nehal.
Of course. So hello, I'm Nihar. I'll be talking about what learning journey actually means. And so let's get right into it. So what we'll cover today, I'll first talk about what is actually offered by the learning journey, like why holistic learning matters and what it actually is. Y'all are probably really familiar with the learning by, here's a contest, here are the questions you need to prepare for that contest, and here's the content. As long as I do good at the competition, as long as I understand the content, I'm good. But holistic learning is a lot more than that, because after the competition, you have a real life to live. You have people to take care of, you have people that take care of you, you have the world to change, just as Dr. Chituri was talking about in the last presentation. You don't learn those things by learning about knowledge and questions, you learn those things through holistic learning. And so I want to talk a little bit about why that matters and why learning journey specifically matters to unlock that aspect. Second, I'm going to be covering exactly how that holistic learning is happening. It's not just like an abstract concept that we're throwing to you and we're like, okay, you're magically going to become like the best adults in the world. There's like real concepts that we found and researched that unlock those things and still allow you to have success, because the important thing is you still want to go to competitions, you still want to prove that you're the best. I know I did, but you also want to be a good person, and you also want to help change the world while doing both things. And so, yeah, that portfolio and those classes are really important for that. Next, just talking about the classes that are highest in demand, so y'all can watch out for what's important and maybe what y'all should be looking out for. And then if you're a little bit younger, looking for what you can do now to get ready for those things. And then the last three are sort of logistics, like how do you enroll, who's teaching, and etc. And those two will be covering that because they're much more knowledgeable in that area. But I'll get started. So I want to start with this quote by FDR. He said, "We cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future." And this is really important because that's the concept that I was talking about. If we're always worried about learning the knowledge that already exists and just memorizing that over and over again and spitting it back out, then the world isn't changing. We learn knowledge so we can learn more knowledge, and we learn knowledge so we can apply it. And so FDR said this really good quote, because the important thing is having that knowledge, but also growing the people that can be able to use that knowledge. And so that's what this idea of, hey, here's this knowledge, but here's how you actually apply it and can use it and make it living, rather than just a dead set of questions and answers that are on a piece of paper. It can actually be someone's day, it can actually be an impact in someone's life. So we kind of broke it up into two sections because there's a very beginner level to knowledge. I mean, kids, when they're starting out in school, they're literally learning what school is. So you can't throw like calculus and advanced concepts to them, and also even advanced concepts about like social justice and things like that. These kids are learning how to be in a classroom, they're learning how to listen to a teacher, they're learning how to process sound and sight and all those things. And so we wanted to start off with this sort of elementary phase of kids are just learning how to learn. Kids are learning how to handle these complex concepts. They're learning how to see, they're learning how to feel, they're learning how to think about the things you're telling them instead of just throwing facts at them. But then soon, kids get older, kids get smart, kids are building crazy things these days, they're pretty creative. And so then you also want to talk about the social and emotional aspects of that. Where's the identity? What do you want to do in the world? What do you want to see yourself be? And that's a lot more complex than a textbook. A textbook, you have questions and facts to write about, but a person, that's something you can't write about. That's something you have to live out. That's something you have to talk to. That's something you have to understand and put work into. And so then we have this sort of more complex, like, built on that foundation to be able to set up that pipeline for, okay, here's the foundational knowledge you learn about, here's 2 + 2, and then here's the social and emotional aspect of that. How can math actually be used to help people? How can numbers actually cause dogs to be stopped from killing in shelters, right? That's an important thing. It's not enough for you to just know what 2 + 2 is. For you to do that, you have to learn the social and emotional aspects of what it actually takes to talk to a person and convince them not to do horrible things. And so yeah, why holistic? Someone with just the facts doesn't know how to talk. Someone with just the facts doesn't know how to impact. Someone with just the facts will never get anywhere in life because facts are just facts. But it's when you convince people with them, it's when you make them into opinions, it's when you make them into arguments. And eventually you get lawyers, you get doctors, you get teachers, people that actually make a change with those facts. And that's why holistic matters, because before learning facts, you have to learn how to be a person so you can use those facts. So, talking about what's actually part of those, so core skills, like first of all, you have to learn how to read. To be able to understand any of this, you have to be able to learn to read. And then to learn to read, you have to learn to write. You have to actually write what you're reading. You have to practice doing what the person is telling you. Math, you need to know how to count things. You need to know how to process. These lights are brighter than those lights. That's math. You're factoring how intense the light is compared to here to there. Science, same thing. Learning how to actually learn how to gather knowledge for yourself and learn how to understand the processes behind things. And then most importantly, critical thinking, learning how to learn. Because sometimes there isn't a set way to learn something. Sometimes you are discovering something new. Sometimes there is nobody else in the world that understands how to understand what you're thinking. But it's that critical thinking and it's that paying attention to yourself and how you think that will help you unlock what you can really do. And then, like I said, once you build on that foundation, you get this more complex middle school bridge where you're able to look into more complex issues. You're actually able to understand those complex things that you can apply those things for. And then eventually, you put those two together, you have all of this beautiful data in your head about what the world is. And then you also have this data about how that data can be used. And then now you're old enough to actually take action. You're old enough to speak up. You're old enough to reach out to adults and ask them, hey, there's this thing that I don't find comfortable with the world, but I have all this knowledge and I don't want to put it to waste. I want to actually use it to make an impact in the world. I want to be a leader. And so that's what we teach in those high school courses, is those higher level thinking courses that will get you to do that. So going into what specifically is taught course by course. So we teach mathematics. Like I said, that teaches problem solving, that teaches factoring in quantities, comparing things. We teach science because it's important to teach curiosity in general. Kids should be looking at the world and wondering why things are the way they are. Because there's a lot wrong with the world, but nothing's going to change with that unless you don't understand why the world is the way that it is. We teach English. You have to learn how to communicate. If you want to talk to somebody, you got to learn how to communicate. If you want to understand what somebody's saying, you got to learn how to communicate. If you want to be understood, you got to learn how to communicate. And that takes learning words, that takes learning how to read, that takes learning how to write. Big one that's coming up these days is AI and technology, right? I mean, the reason why I'm even talking to you guys right now with all this sound is because the microphone is emitting the sound. The reason why the slideshow is up there right now is because there's a projector displaying the screen. So technology is a wonderful tool, but there's people that know how to use it and there's people that don't know how to use it. And out of the people that know how to use it, there's people that know how to use it for good and there's people that know how to use it for bad. And so it's important early on to understand what technology can be and what it is, especially AI, because AI can either be a tool or it can be a curse. And it's important to learn the inner workings of that AI to be able to unlock what you can actually do with it. And then sort of on the opposite side of that spectrum, you have social sciences, right? You have to learn about people, because we live in a world with technology, but we also live in a world with people. And the way you make money, the way you make impact, the way you do anything in this world is by understanding other people and how to treat them. And so you learn that through geography, you learn that through civics, you learn that through history, what things have went wrong in the past, how people have treated other people, and how do we use that as a framework for how to treat people now. It's really important. And then last but not least, you need life skills, because all of these things, they're great, they're good, you can be really smart, but if you don't know how to take care of yourself, if you don't know how to take care of other people, if you don't know how to take care of the world, then all those facts are just facts, right? They aren't actual things that can be applied and change somebody's life. So it's understanding these things, mindfulness, how do I appreciate the world around me? How do I appreciate what's here and stop looking into what could be there? How do I know how to deal with my money? How can I use it to actually create an impact? How can I use it to actually feel good about myself? And then obviously leadership. How do I bring my ideas to another group of people so that they can follow it too? How do I multiply my impact so that I'm not taking on the world alone? And so these are all classes and subjects that we cover in this learning journey that is just more than saying, hey, here's a math competition, go knock yourself out, right? And that's great. Please do the math competitions. Please prepare for them. But if you learn what math can actually do in your life, it does a lot more for you. And that competition becomes a little bit more fun. There's a couple quotes here that I wanted to cover for why it's important for each of these things to be understood. So first, with mathematics, Galileo Galilei, he said, mathematics is the language in which God has written the universe. And that's really important because there's a lot of languages in the world out there, and especially nowadays with technology and social media, everybody's talking to each other in all sorts of languages. But there is a language in which God has written the universe, and so it's important to understand that, to understand the world around you. I'm not going to go through every single one of these quotes. These slides are there later, and it's recorded, so you can read them and understand. But that's a taste of each of these things has a unique aspect to them that's important. It's not just about, hey, I'm learning this because other people are doing, like other smart people are doing it, and apparently it's important, right? And that could be the reason you get into it. But eventually it's important to understand these very fundamental aspects of why they matter to humanity. Because these things are things that your kids can pick up and learn and change the world with. They aren't just things to grow in knowledge, they're things to grow as a person. Okay, so what is actually covered in each level and each grade, right? And these are like, it's not like, oh, I'm in grade 2, so I have to learn those things. It's sort of like the general thing, but hey, if you're smart enough as a kid or a parent to know what your kid can do and wants to learn and sees in the world, then that's what they want to learn. But generally, if you're in 1st to 3rd grade, you're learning obviously basic math, you're learning how to add, you're learning how to process the world through numbers, you're learning how to compare things. Spelling bee, you're learning words, you're learning how to spell words, you're learning how to talk to people with those words, you're learning how to understand what other people are saying to you. Scratch programming, the most basic technology thing you could learn. It's like, teaches you some pretty complex coding skills, but it's a little toy that you can play around with online. You can make really cool video games and stuff. And then geography B, just learning about the world. And by the way, it does say B because we want to emphasize that you could apply it in a contest perspective, but you don't necessarily have to just participate in the competition because of those things. You could take the knowledge and learn from it and do whatever you want with it. People are so creative these days and figuring out crazy things with the littlest concepts. And so that's, the competition informs the knowledge that can be gathered, but what you do with it is up to you. Grades 3 to 5, obviously you move up to some bigger math concepts, sort of equations. How do I actually solve things in the world with math? How do I understand how many eggs I need to make a cake? Inquiry-based science, that's really important. That's sort of that. How do I make something? How do I understand the parts that make up something? How do I deconstruct something? Vocabulary bee is a little further step than the spelling bee, because spelling bee, you're just learning words and getting familiar with them, like what are even letters. But vocabulary bee is when you get into definition, it's when you get into cultures, it's when you get into really why words exist and what their stories are. And then last but not least, creative writing. You're actually using those words in a much better way than just an essay. For example, you're learning how to express, you're learning how to create art. And art is one of the reasons why we're all here. Art is important, art is why we enjoy things, art is why we connect. And so it's important to gather this knowledge, but it's also important to apply it with creativity so you can impact people and make them happy. Grades 6 through 8, so that's going to be once you get to middle school. A lot more advanced math. You also think faster with number. If y'all are familiar with math counts, that's like they show the question and then the kids at nationals will literally answer it before the question's even read. So it teaches you to think really fast, especially in this world. And then when y'all are adults and have to learn how to drive, that's really scary. So that prepares you for that for sure. Science Olympiad, that again becomes a lot more intense science. It's really not just, I'm gonna look at the world and learn how it's made. It's like, how can I replicate that? How can I make something even better with that? Python programming is a little step above from scratch programming. Still not the craziest thing, but learning how to use technology to make your life better, learning how to automate things. For example, you create a weekly schedule for the recipes you want to cook. And then SAT prep, because then you start to move into college and think about where you want to go. And so that's pretty important. Last but not least, high school. That's when you get into those AP classes that become a little bit more challenging from what you might have done in elementary or middle school. And so all of these AP classes, calculus, that's math, biology, physics, science. There's AP computer science to get that step up from Python. And then obviously the world of AI, start to become familiar with it, see what you can do with it. But I want to stress throughout all of these things, we're not teaching you just the knowledge. Hopefully the goal is we're teaching you how to learn, because there's a bunch of things that are important to learn that are outside of this. For example, sports. We can't teach you sports because we don't have like stadiums and stuff. But hopefully the goal is you learn how to become a better athlete by doing this. You learn that you can pick apart a routine. You can pick apart a star player's perfect pass or a perfect dribble with the science skills. And then there's numbers, there's angles, there's velocity, there's things you have to concentrate on to be able to understand how to do those things. So the goal is not, okay, you're preparing for Science Olympiad, you learned the entire plant domain, how plants are built, now I'm done. The goal is, okay, I learned how plants are built, now can I understand how a car is built? Can I understand how to be more safe driving my car, for example? And then we also want to mention that there's a lot of flexibility in how the classes are taught, because I know that's important. The fact that y'all are even here probably means you're a very busy family. That has to do a lot. So we have live sessions, but we also have,
one thing, this is important data for me, I'm collecting here. Can I get a show of hands, how many are actually interested in a live coach class versus, a lot of people are asking like, oh, can you record the class, just give it because my kid is busy. I just want to understand how many of you prefer having a live coach teaching your kid. Okay, that's almost everybody in the room. And can I, once you put your hands down, can I now ask like, if we offer this self-paced class as an option, just in case your kid is busy and they cannot show up for one or two classes, or it as a whole asynchronous program. Would any of you be interested in something like that? Yeah, parents can monitor online classes too. Right.
Not like because the kid is not available, but we are not.
No, so I'm trying to understand. So you, even if it's a live class, you want something.
Class is 5 to 6.
Yeah.
Right, but my schedule doesn't allow me to be there.
Right. So 5 to 6, you want your kid to be in the live class, but after 6 o'clock, you want to also know what actually happened.
Like what actually happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I think a live class with the option to watch the recording at your convenience if you want to do that,
Yeah.
in case you miss the live class for something.
Or the kid is sick or something. But this is what has been going on every season.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not seeing a lot of hands up for asynchronous classes. But let me ask another thing. So, what if it is just quizzes or tests that your kids can go and just do it asynchronously, right? Like they go to a class. I cannot teach everything in a class. But if I say I can give you this add-on where your kid can go and shoot some tests for like not themselves, but I can give them a notebook. We can ask it 1,000 ways. AI is there. It's AI assisted everything. It's sometimes even better than the live teachers you are getting. So as a follow-on, if we give you some add-on like that, would that be of some interest?
Yes, yes. I think that would be great.
Yeah.
They don't want to miss it. They are interested in your subject. They don't want to miss it. They might as okay, I know. Yeah, see, reminds me. So the assistants can help, but definitely subjects that may not require real like mathematics. I think the life is better because they're asking, okay, you just do it in another one, you say it. So that's how they're very interested. Something like science, actually, asynchronous is what I believe.
Okay.
And you mentioned AI tutors, right? I think they'll be okay for high school, when they have a good understanding, but not for grade 1 to 3, at least 5 the foundations are important. And I think when grade, like, the junior levels, when they see a person and they were, talking to them, that also sparks interest in the student. And they interact with each other in the classroom.
If I have a parent, I would ask for the same thing. Right? If my kids are right? Yeah. So what we are trying to do.
That's a question.
Yeah.
So you have a question?
Does the difficulty matter what grade you're in?
To take the classes.
Like, does the difficulty matter what grade you're in?
I'm saying to take the advanced classes.
I think that's what he means.
Yeah. No, you can take any level of class, suiting your master level. We are by master level, not by grade level. Those are just guidelines that we are offering. So by default, the way we program the system, it lets you grade for auto register for one level high. But there's an exception process. If you write to us and say like, but then we'll ask for some proof because some parents just want to test it out and then they come back and say this is too hard. Can I get a refund? I'm not self-first. So I want to have a conversation with them. I want to really understand it. That's what I'm doing. Okay. So this is good feedback. I think I need a lot of help because our biggest problem is getting volunteers to run the live classes. We are trying to put as many as we can, and if I get a good idea of what will be beneficial, maybe we should look at our portfolio and structure it in a way that we address the main needs first.
I'm just very new to this, right? So I just learning classes just recently for the summer because it was participating in guidance. It wasn't very helpful in the sense that we didn't get the full guidance, which is how Nihar mentioned. It was very holistic and it was very intuitive. So I think that concept is really good. My feedback is that the platform using Google Classroom might not be the best because there was back and forth. I think there needs to be a good coordination on homeworks and what is expected. The coaches were very well but I think there might need to be decisions. And then the classes for the coaches are not available beforehand, which happens everywhere. I think there needs to be a little bit more communication. That's where my
So summer, I'm just trying to give you an idea of the scale at which we are doing it, right? I have about 1,500 registrations for summer. 1,500, and we have 120 classes going in the week. No, not this is the next week. Another thing that I want parents to understand, I with you. I see the problems myself, right? I run the whole program. So every day I'm monitoring, and we have volunteers. I'm trying to delegate stuff so we can scale.
You can take care of the AI to do all those things.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
that's what I think you can use AI.
So that's the reason we went to Google Education for it. Because then I get Gemini AI, and then all of my analysts can use it. And slowly it's a slow transition, right? So, I mean, we are moving faster than a commercial organization. It's not fast enough because if you guys are familiar with the whole system, what Gemini, what Google is doing, what Anthropic is doing, I work for IBM, by the way, so we also are here. So that industry, so this last year completely changed everything. Just in 1 year, even in 4 months, the technology that's coming out, it's changing so drastically. And Google Education Plus, Gemini AI, first time they gave us access to last September. Google for the first time opened up notebooks and Gemini AI for Education Plus platform in September. Last September. And we are an non-profit organization, we are running with volunteers. And we are on it already. Most of these regular schools and all, they are not even made this transition, the commercial organizations. So we are kind of like guinea pig because I didn't have any other options. So we got it, we are running. A lot of operational issues around it, as you rightfully are pointing out.
Audio-visual was not a big issue, but I think doing the homework or the interactive part on the screen, like other apps use, like, for math and things like that. I think that is where probably needs to be.
Yeah, so I really need your feedback. So then we can go into it. Like you said, we can take AI assistance. We have, for actual spelling asynchronous classes, I actually gave them access to notebook. We actually built a notebook. So they can go and it's very grounded. If the kid asks for a math problem, it says, no, you're learning spelling. I can't ask the math questions, right? And then there is a agent also we build. But as I'm explaining, these are all experimental. Like we're just doing it and we are learning as we go. So there is definitely some strength. But we want parents to get involved, and if you volunteer for these things, you will also see from our side, you will understand the issues how we are using technology, and then you can teach your children, hey, you can do this with this thing. It's pretty, now it's pretty easy, right? You go from, the world is going to change. No matter what we do, we're not going to put like, okay, let me open this spreadsheet, let me update this, sell here, sell there. We will not do any of that. We will have a prompter, probably with some like Meta glasses or something, and then you are interacting with that. And we say like, go update this spreadsheet. You won't even tell me, go update this spreadsheet. You say like, hey, manage my finances, right? And what's going on? And tomorrow. Like tell me this is what is today, and this is what I'm getting in, this is what I'm getting out. Or you can ask it to track. I can talk forever on AI, there's orchestration, a lot of things going on. We're actually using this technology.
Right? So the parent has that limited time, right? Parent is also learning an AI thing, which is new for a parent too.
Exactly.
And then they're trying to put that concept apart from the school and with some addition to, like, that's where we are trying to get balanced out. Right?
Yeah.
And they are available or they're not available. They're also busy with their life.
So please stay after the session.
Yeah.
We'll have a long hour session and find solutions for you.
Okay.
And all other parents. I'm very glad and I'm very thankful for all of you that
If
you're
you
doing.
think in that perspective and then like improvise, I think it will help both parties.
And I'm telling you, it will be a multi-year journey. It will not happen overnight. And I always thank NASA parents, and I'm sorry we have a lot of slides to go through, but we'll get through it. But the point I want to try to make here, I have been a parent like you. And eventually we want to build a system where all other parents can benefit. Mostly Indian urban parents, right? Some of you, I don't know if all of you are current with it to the point that you are making, like all the parents. You have very limited time. And one thing I can do is bring all the knowledge in front of you and tell you, guys, hey, this is changing, that is changing for it. Once they understand the bias, once they understand the hallucinations, once they understand that they're going to go into these rules and we may even pay for these things, and then if you give the wrong prompt and if LLM gets confused, it goes into a loop, all your money will be gone, it will just drive up all these things they have done. But anyway, we'll continue and we will talk after this session, and anybody who wants to also participate in the conversation as they have. Thank you for all of you.
Yeah, so going next, I want to talk about what are the highest demand classes, so you can sort of look for, what other people are looking for, and then also if you're sort of under the level of the class that is high demand, sort of what you should be preparing for to get there. So the biggest thing we saw people wanting to learn is science, which makes sense because science is about learning how to learn about the world. And so for a learning journey thing, the biggest thing to be about the Science Olympiad, which is a pretty rigorous competition about science and what it can teach you. That's not surprising at all. But that also means what can you do early on to understand what science is, right? Because you're not going to take a first grader and say, here, study a 500-page textbook about biology, right? And so seeing that that is the highest demand, what you can do for your kids that are in 1st, 3rd, 5th grade is sort of introduce them to look at the world and ask questions, right? For example, why is the screen showing up right now? Why can you hear me all the way here? Because if I was talking like this, that's different, right? Why does that exist? And so like little questions like that gets you to be able to understand something as big as the Science Olympiad. And then the next biggest thing is coding, right? That's a big thing. My dad was talking a lot about AI and technology and how it can be used. The way you understand that is first understanding how computer science works and what it can be used for. And yeah, the biggest thing for that is Python. I won't go through each one of the rest of them, but this is sort of to get you thinking about, okay, what classes do I want my students to learn? Or even for the students themselves, what am I interested in? And what am I interested in about the world that I can use to apply and what I want to learn? So that's just working on it. Okay. This is sort of mostly what I'm talking about. Okay. I just want to go through a quick thing about all of the terms that I was using, just in case they're not super familiar to everyone. They should be, but I just want to go through them. We were talking about the SAT. This is a pretty important test that you take for your college admissions. It's not the only thing that matters for your college admissions, so don't spend your entire life preparing for the SAT. But it's also important to think about how am I reading, how am I writing, how am I doing math? These basic concepts that inform the bigger things that you can do. For example, to do a leadership project in your community, you have to talk to parents, you have to talk to people that can give you money, you have to talk to a team of people that can help volunteer. You need to add up all the costs, you need to see where it's subtracting. And so that takes those basic skills of reading, writing, and math that's tested on the SAT. Next is the AP exam. These are your more like very subject focused. So there's like AP chemistry, AP biology, AP physics. All of these are really focused subject ones. If you're going to like a state university and you want to find a way to cut down on your tuition costs, that's by taking AP exams. You can skip classes in college by taking these AP exams in high school, and they help a lot because then you get the time in college to focus on, hey, the actual creative stuff and the actual cutting edge research instead of just the basic ground level stuff that you can learn in high school. Science Olympiad, I just talked about that. Rigorous science-based competition, sort of tests on everything science, really gets you thinking about how the world is made and what's important in it and how you can apply that to make things yourself. And then last but not least, public speaking and essay writing. That's what I'm doing right now. I didn't get here I wasn't like this in first grade. I couldn't get up with a mic and talk to everyone. It takes practice. It takes conversations with adults. It takes conversations with your friends. It takes confidence. And these are the things as an adult. You have interviews. You have to communicate with people. It's much more than like a competition or a test. It's actually something that's really important for your physical and mental health. And so those public speaking and essay writing concepts are really important for communication and really driving an impact in the world. I mainly talked about that already. Okay, so sort of the why the learning journey and holistic learning is important, right? So as I talked about, I can sit here and tell you like soft skills, right? That's one of the things. You have soft skills, you can build resilience, you can build public speaking, you can build things. But unfortunately, a lot of other things people are thinking about is money and how is my resume gonna look, right? But those are important because people need to be filtered out to be able to put in the positions where they can make an impact. You can't just put someone that's really passionate into the President of the United States of America, right? Because then I don't know where the world would end up. But it's someone with strong public speaking, it's someone with strong knowledge, it's someone that really understands how the world is made. That would be good for president. That would be able to lead the world. That would be able to, end poverty and hunger and all those bad things. And so to be able to build that status, be able to get into those networks, to be able to have those resumes, to be able to even be confident that you can get there, these are these foundational knowledge things you need to learn to be able to become that person. And so that's why just going through a textbook and learning about biology or just going through a textbook and learning about math isn't going to get you to a place where you can impact the world, where you can make the world a better place for you and your family. But learning about how those things can help you do that, learning about yourself, learning about what those things mean to yourself, are why holistic learning is important and why it's important to apply those things in the world. So that's why the learning journey is absolutely phenomenal.
I can take that last one. I have a few things to say. So one of the things that, this is why NARSO Foundation, right? I mean, we can go outside and do similar things, but I just want to, I'm so appreciative of the organization, I just want to share my personal experience. So you can understand, like Navya is my daughter, she also did the NARSO competition, she won the National Brain Week with NARSO. And that got her interest in neuroscience, and she was trying to, she actually went to Maryland National Competition, and she was there to finish 20th. But it's not about the competition, right? It shaped her mind, and it's like she wanted to do something with the AI, healthcare. She wanted to do something with the healthcare. AI was not there at that time. And then now the AI comes, so she actually works for a healthcare startup. And parents, the world has changed. If you teach your children only one skill, they will not find a job. Even IBM, I am working now. I used to be a programmer. I programmed for 30 years. I worked on the operating system. I know the internal code, kernel, everything. I know about multitask, multiprocessing, which people don't need to know now because AI is doing all of these things for them. But if I go apply for a job with those skills, nobody will take it. They don't care. They are saying you have to do end-to-end. One person, you go talk to the customer. You figure out what the customer wants. You bring it back. You list it. You develop your requirement. Then you take the requirement. Then you plan it. You come up with a development plan. Then you do the testing. Then you roll it out. The plant, how many of you know the company plant? They are like very high-flying AI stocks. You can watch. You can churn your stomach, you can invest and go there. But they started this model. That's how they became successful. So they took people, they trained them, and they said, you are doing end-to-end. You are doing requirement gathering, you are doing development, you are doing testing, you are doing AI. And so basically what we are doing, I'm not coding anymore, right? Or I'm not a marketing person thinking and developing slides. I'm going into cloud, I'm going into Anthropic, or I'm going to Gemini AI, I'm saying, put on your marketing hat, give me marketing slides. I got my marketing slides in 10 minutes. But then you have to understand what exactly it told you. Is it telling you right? It doesn't separate the market. Our kids need to learn that skill. Then similarly, it tells me, like, I argued with it for 3 hours. It told me that I was building a web page and it was loading in 3 seconds. It was telling me 3 seconds is good. I said, it's not good for me. Why did it take 3 seconds? And then it started going, looking, it's like, oh, this is how we are getting this tag, that tag, all that stuff. I said, forget about all that. Do you have any new features, new experimental features that we have? He said, no, I have this experiment. I said, go apply it. Then the page load is 0.6 seconds. So if you don't learn that knowledge and if you don't apply that, and you have to at least understand, but every field you have to understand, that's how it is going to change. All that is a thing, it's not just one single skill is not going to help them get anywhere. It's very hard. You're probably hearing this, and I get calls from India, all these kids that are doing MS and looking for jobs, like my parents are probably aware. And everybody's saying, oh, IT, I was walking away from IT and all these things because there are no jobs. But I'm telling you, AI will take over. And AI, there will be more jobs created around technology. There will be more than enough jobs, and if you don't know how to use AI to do your job, that nobody helps in that. No matter what, doctors, lawyers, you have something to say? Yeah, but it's not easier to say. I don't think it's a bubble or it's a fair. But it's something that you want to start thinking about. I mean, singles, no matter what, whether it's this or not, single skill is not going to get us very far in the new. Yeah, okay. I think time checkers are wrapped up.
Yeah, we have 11:15.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. It's the next slide.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Okay.
you're saying, but then-
Yeah, so do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah.
So I'm not one of the program leads. I've been talking a lot, but she does a lot of the work of actually managing the program and running the classes. So you'll definitely want to hear from her.
So let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Meenakshi Radhakrishnan. I did my medical from India. So I came here and I was pregnant when I came here. My son was diagnosed with systemic juvenile arthritis when he was 1.5 years old. So it's an autoimmune condition and he needed 24/7 care. So I couldn't pursue my medical. And that it threw me a lot of challenges because of which I wanted to help the society. That's why I'm here. Cut it short. Because when I was going through it, I thought, when my son will come normal. He came into remission in 8th grade, but I thought, when he's going to come into normal, how our medical bills were high, our everyday bills were high, we were in debt. How are we going to get out of this? And my son wanted to be a doctor. I didn't know how he will become a doctor because every year we gave flu vaccine, he gets flu. And everything he gets. We couldn't go to travel to India for 8 years because I was fearing that he will get an infection. Once I went, it became so bad that we came back, rebooked the flight and come back and admit him here. So it was a difficult challenge, but 8th grade he got into remission. So that's the reason I wanted to help the society. So that's the reason I'm here. I wanted to talk. I love children. I was a pediatrician, so I was partly becoming a pediatrician. I just had a final exam and I came here. So I love kids. Kids are my energy. Coming back to it, few points I want to tell you. Recent thing, every state is bringing their, so I am a college board certified for SAT exams. So I have every state is bringing their own testing system. Texas has brought its own testing system. It's applicable from next year. So every state is bringing their own testing system. So SAT is also there, but they are giving more importance now to, they are saying that if you are not doing well in SAT, now they are saying ACT was there, now they are saying you can do the alternate one. We don't know the more details of the exam part. They are saying maybe at part at SAT or whatever. If you're scoring, not scoring well in SAT, you have to do this. It's called common something. I don't remember the name exactly, but every state is bringing their own testing system. That has to be, that I just wanted to add it up. Texas has brought in it. It's applicable from 2027, like coming year. Other states are bringing it too. So number one. Number two, what I noticed with kids here is, all the parents and kids is they focus on math. An 8th grade kid will be in Calc AB, but their English will be 6th grade or 5th grade. This is not going to help them. SAT, when I talk to the parents, they'll say, my kid got a perfect score. I'll say, oh wow, I used to think he got 16 or 1600. So many kids have got 1600 out of 1600. Then if I hear, they say, no, math they got 800, English 600 or 650. So how is it going to reflect for the college? So somehow the kid will struggle, something they will do and they will reach 1500. But that is not building their foundation. Then it comes to essay writing, they hire essay writer or like hire a college counselor. Why do you need all this? Why don't you build their foundation of English from the beginning? So that's where we help. I found that when I gave Mary Poppins book for the 5th grade, I got a lot of reviews that the kids found it tough. Mount of Monte Cristo, Alexander Dumas book was tough even for the volunteers who were teaching it. I was like lost, what is this? So this is not fair. We have to upgrade our English to the Americans because they speak so fluently, they speak so good, eloquently. So spelling, vocab is important. Similarly, using good words, vocabulary in your essays are important. Don't need to hire an essay writer or anyone. My son never hired anyone. We never hired anyone. And I don't believe that we need to pay for this if we build a foundation. So I would like to all of you to stress on English too, not just on math. Your kid may be in Calc AB in 8th grade, but if he's not going to be sound in English, that's going to affect. One more thing, even that Texas one, they are saying that SAT people think English is just reading comprehension and vomiting it out, you will read and you will do. No. Your foundation of middle school social studies, that is history, geography and science is important. Along with 9th grade, they expect reading level is up to 9th grade and they expect you to know history, geography and science up to 9th grade. Interesting thing happened, I was teaching once and there was a word called pathogen and there was a word called micro. There were two options and the kids said both are similar. How can the SAT give that? Because actual SAT giver. I said, no, microbes means unicellular organisms. Pathogens are like viruses and bacteria. That's the difference. So he started arguing. I said, okay, go and argue. I said, he Googled. You know the Google of the time, what it gives. So then he read the book and he came back. I said, read books, don't just Google. He read and he came back and told me that. I said, if you're done your 9th, what is your biology 9th grade? All say 8. I said, what is your concept of biology? He said, don't ask. And then I asked him a few questions, he looked blank. So how are you going to give your essay? If you don't know your basic, see, it's not like reading and vomiting. There are a lot of things which you have to infer. So you need to know what is happening in world during World War II, how it's affecting America. You don't need to know affecting other countries, but how is America affected during World War I, World War II? How it's affected during Harlem times? So these things kids don't know. You are supposed to know it when you're reading that. That is not going to be given that. They won't give you the whole history and ask you to want it. So this foundation needs to be built and we want to build that. That's what we are goal. And I'm seeing that parents are putting the kids in their grade level for English and the kid is in high school level for math. And they're fine with it. But that's not fine. That's not going to help them in future. That's not going to help them write a college essay. They're not going to help them survive in college. They won't help them to speak up in the future. So that is, English is very, very essential for everyone. So this is what I wanted to emphasize on. And getting a perfect score in math and not getting good score in English is not going to help in SAT. Your SAT scores, if you barely pass 1500 too, it's not enough. You should have solid foundation of what's going on. Because tomorrow, someone asks you, some American asks you, you are ready to tell them that this is what it is. You don't tell me. That has to be from us. Number two, we are focusing on holistic thing. I wanted to tell you something about this. We really want to promote holistic. That's the one reason I'm more for it. Not because of what my son went through. We had a lot of struggles in our house. I went up and down. I won't deny I went into depression. But more than that, this year, around May 6th, one of my friend's son shot himself. Parents had no clue of any history. He's in UT Austin, our son, and parents had no history of any signs of depression or anything. He called, just he killed himself in the morning. I'm sorry, I should not talk with the kids, but morning, and next day, a day before, he had talked to his mom for 20 minutes, 6 times, talked to his grandmother. Nobody could figure it out. It's an absolute shock for the parents. They are not able to get out of it. They are not able to come out of it. So just by going to Ivy Leagues or all doesn't, it's not. My son's batch, UT Austin, till today, till I know 25 kids have succumbed to this mental illness, out of which 20 are Indians. As far as we know, I don't know what's outside. We know what's been documented in Facebook. So, are we ready for this? Are we ready to just to put them to study, join Ivy League? Are we ready for that? I'm not saying Ivy League is bad. I'm not saying UT Austin is bad. I'm not saying community college is bad. But are we ready to lose our children? Are we ready for and there are so many kids who my son's batch, out of his friends, 50 friends, only 6 wants to study, work. They have applied for internship. The internship was promised because he's in 3rd year, going to 4th year. He's in pre-med tracks applying for colleges, but those who are on the work, only 6 have got internships and who is going to give them jobs. Rest of them are saying, my parents forced me to study, parents made me to join UT Austin. Why should I study? I will take a break here. Let the parents do it. I will work somewhere, Walmart or somewhere. Then I will join job. I want to take a break. Had enough. Do we want that? Do we want that type of parenting? No. Colleges matter. I do agree. I am not advocating, I am not saying Ivy League is not good. I am not saying other colleges are not good. But what are we bringing our children to? What future are we bringing? Because they are going to so much peer pressure, so many things, so many competitions. And we are just focusing on math or just competitions is not going to make them grow. But we have to raise them as individuals who can survive the society. We struggled, we survived. We have to teach the same thing to them. What I realize is some of the times they are not being taught basic things like what we went through, we don't want our children to go through. Unfortunately, that's what they have to go through because they are going to face the world. We cannot just shield them. So that's the reason I am for this holistic healing and very pro for it. But yeah, sorry for the long conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we got Ratnagari Center speak, so I think this session is a success. He's going to say a few words. Thank you, Ratnagari.
Sorry, I asked you for time.
No problem. You should ask the spelling bee people themselves, sitting and waiting for more time.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. Very active. Thank you, Neena. It's interesting, very interesting. 1993, that is when we started activities in the US. We started with spelling bee. 1993, 1994, we had a vocabulary. Meena is saying, even today, it is important. English is important. Spelling bee is the foundation. Then the vocabulary, then public speaking, essay writing, right? We had all that. So nobody, about 6 years ago, COVID time, you heard stories. No SAT. No SAT. They said Harvard is going to introduce, without SAT. It's very silly. It's very silly. What happened today? They all went back. A lot of schools said we don't need anything, but how do you evaluate? Education is a state subject. We have 50 states, all 50 states have 50 different programs. Even within the states, there are private schools, public schools, even public schools sometimes they have different programs. It's the whole complex, very highly complex. So how do you compare kids? When kids are coming from all over the country, how do you evaluate them? You need metrics. In a public education, in a democracy, you need metrics. You can't just say, blah, 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 blah. It's not like a beauty contest. Even beauty contest, they have metrics. Right? They give you a piece of paper, this metric, 1 to 10 scale, right? So the public schools, the states, by design, they have to have metrics. To have metrics, you have to have process, you have structure, And thank you very much, for what you're saying. You're confirming, it's still important. What we thought important in 1993 is still important today. Let me tell you another one. So we, as a community, Indian American community, right? We focus on education. We focus on it. Children dances, music, cultural program, sports, bands, and all that, right? These are all important because you're getting a diversity of skills. But then at the end of the day, what does it count? What brings bread to the table? That's what doctor is saying. What brings to the table? It is the job you have. It's the skills you develop. Right? So they give you some statistics, who saves $10,000, $20,000. At the end of the day, academics is important. That's what the North-South Foundation focused in 1993, said, all these things are fine, wonderful, but let's focus on academics, basics. Now next thing is, I wanted Narayana Janga. You look at this man. We don't pay him. We don't pay him a penny. We don't pay him a penny. He works for IBM, right? He works for IBM. He goes to work. He comes back 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. He puts his bag in his something, goes to the bathroom, and sits at the computer. Laptop. What is that? North-South Foundation. Right? And his wife has to remind him and say, Narayana, you have to eat dinner. You know? Why is he doing it? Why is he doing that? Right? Not paying him money. Not paying anything. He's not getting a reward. So we should all people like that. Because he believes in our community. He believes in improving making our children better citizens for tomorrow. Right? He believes in what as a community, collective, right? Parents becoming volunteers. Without what this foundation is run by all volunteers. Some are volunteers.
Wait, we were just like,
nobody gets paid. How do you get volunteers? Parents. You parents, you have to become volunteers. Without volunteers, there's no foundation. And the parents, you come there, you come here. Without parents, there's no foundation. Without children, there's no foundation. Right? So, it's a collective work. And I want everybody to recognize Narayana. Give a big applause.
Doing a lot of exaggeration. There are 100 people like working for the organization. It's just not me. It's him who started it, and we are very thankful that he started this organization. So, Neha, we're going to wrap up. We are a little bit late. So, one thing I do want to ask everybody, like Ratnagari said, we are a volunteer organization, and we kind of understand what we are working towards. It has been a very hard 2 years for me, but I'm very happy because we have a system that we can build on. We have a process. We have operational issues. We have content issues. We have coach issues. And if you all can have in a teacher class, you can help us build a curriculum because I want our original curriculum and things are changing every day. So I just want to pick something that is on Google to Dr. Vina's point. I don't know if it's done right or not. You can help us coordinate classes for the operational issues and like just remind coaches that they have a class today. And if they're not coming, to at least let us know that they're not coming so I can find a replacement. We do all these things, but we have very few people helping us. And then at time the next wave of coaches, you can just mentor, like if you're really good in math and you don't have time to teach it, I can give you a couple of high schoolers that you can work with them and tell them this is how you actually teach math and all. And we do give volunteer hours to high school children so they can use it for national merit scholarship, national NHS, National Honor Society and other things like that. And I am happy to bring a reward program for the parents back, but I really don't want to do it because we are volunteer based and I want to make sure that you are doing it for the goodness of the community. We used to offer a free class for the children, so the parent teaches the class. In my opinion, I am really against it, but the majority of sciences, it's like Dr. Chitri was saying, it's a community-based organization. That's why I motivates you to focus when I am open. Okay, let's go to the next one. I think, do we have anything else for the volunteers? Yeah, this is just our marketing spiel on how your 1 hour can change a child's life, and we will share this. We can skip through it. I think we already gave it. So enrollment, you guys all know this period of requirement also once we open the fall registrations, you'll be able to log into your parent account and then you'll see that you're having any classes and all, and you can start signing up. We will be doing that pretty much classes will start in October, we'll probably start signing parent emails in September. I have to recruit coaches first because we are a volunteer-based system. Unless I have a coach, I cannot put a class. So I have to first go recruit volunteers, get their commitments, and then we can start the offering. So that's a year-round process. Okay, we can, this is all for just how our classes work and everything. Some numbers for you, like for full year we are charging about $375 per subject. Because of the way our system works, right? I cannot guarantee a fully professional, like somebody who is doing outside, eventually may get there, but right now all registrations are closed because we just did summer. So we'll open again. But yeah, I want to offer year round. As we build the system. But right now you will not see any options. Yeah. Okay. And that's everything. I don't think we have time for questions and discussions, but I will hang outside the room and you will see me. I will be in the campus until tomorrow. Or you can email to learningjourney@nasa.org if you want to get hold of me. I'll talk to one of the volunteers and tell them to talk to one of the organizers here and say like we are interested in this learning journey, talk to them. And then we will come find you. So, Jesse, sorry we ran over. And all the spelling kids, you can come to the front. Spelling MTP, you can come now.
Spelling guys.
Yeah. Thank you everyone. Thanks for attending our session. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Naranaji and Dr. Nancy and here. It is a very, very interesting one and one of the important initiatives also is going. But we are moving on to the next well-anticipated program with all our spelling champions here. So please, all of you make it. There are some chairs. And the audience also, please move forward and sit in all those empty seats.
Yeah, I think so.
End it, right? Because they're pause it. We just keep it going. We go back to back. That still doesn't bother me. It's fine, just end it. Yeah.
Because they're doing spelling bee, we need to broadcast that too.
We're broadcasting all the living stuff. There's been no time to stop. They've been going one more time for each one.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
We have too many people and not enough chairs.
You're taking the pictures. Can you get Ratnanga to picture with all the chapters? It's long way. You got that? You guys got a picture with
Hello. Nice to see you. Uncle, you should sit.
Oh, no, I can sit on the table. Good to see you all. Hi. Wonderful. I saw you on stage. Every year I watch it. Favorite program.
Got a picture, nice.
Okay, everyone stand up. Continue.
Welcome everybody. We'll start with our spelling and champions. What we call secrets of spelling success. I'm going to introduce some of them. I have information about and others will introduce themselves.
Look up there.
We have Jihan Janga, who was just here talking about LJ. He's a 2016 champion and also the geographic champion. In the world, he is the only guy who has got 2 championships. So he's in a Guinness World of Records. He is currently studying symbolic system at Stanford and he called the school. His main interest includes applying technology to the education and law. We have Shrutika Bade. What's her name? She is 198 steps spelling bee co-champion and the current student of Brown University. As a long-time volunteer for North-South Foundation, she enjoys sharing her knowledge with the next generation. Next we have Harini Murli. Here. Harini is a rising sophomore in Stevens Biomedical Science Academy. She is introduced to the spelling bee role at the very early age while watching her brother competing and became participating in North-South competitions. She was placed is top 10 finishers in scripts, placing 9th on 2024 and 4th on 2025. We have Ananya Prasanna. She's a freshman. She's a local, North Carolinian, and nationally recognized spelling champion. Earned 3rd place in Scripps National Spelling Bee in 2024. She's actively involved in North Carolina State Spelling Bee events and serves as a trusted pronouncer and judge in both school and district competitions. We have Ruhat Soma. He is a 8-year-old 10th grade student from Tampa, Florida. He won the Scripps National Championship in 2024, and since then he has been helping the spelling community. We have Nasa is a 5-time qualifier for national runner-up and 2018 Scripps National Spelling Bee. She also won 2020 HOSA International Medical Spelling Event, and since then she has been avidly volunteering for North-South Foundation. So that's all I have. I have the fresh champion here, 2026 champion.
Okay. We also have Sneha Ganesh Kumar, who was really hard to compete against in 2016, and then also Mitch Robson was also a competitor in 2016. They're my very good friends, and I'm not going to put them on the spot. Oh yeah, and we have last year's champion, or I guess this year.
Yeah, this year.
This year's champion, Shrey Parikh.
Thank you all. See, I want to say something. These kids, you don't realize what they have done. What they have done. Have you taken the B book? See this page? I insist. I say, you do the B book, but the back page is for me. Because I tell people, whenever I say, see this book? I say, what is that? It's a wow factor. Wow! How did this happen? How did this happen? These kids have done it. These kids brought India on the world map. They brought India on the world map. Prime Minister Modi, 2016, he gave a speech to Congress. Again, 2022, he gave a speech to Congress. In both times he said, right, he brought up the Indian children contribution. People say they dominate spell bee. English is not a native language. Right? English is not a native language. Yet, they shine. In fact, those of you who are inclined to math, I calculated the likelihood of winning the championship. And these kids, when you take the 7 out of the last 18 years, 17 years, they won the championship. What is the likelihood of winning 17 out of 18 years? Think of a World Cup. India competes in cricket, it's a World Cup. How many times they get World Cup? Once in 20 years, once in 30. It's highly competitive. Spelling bee is highly competitive. 11 million children in this country participate in spelling bee. Only 1,000 of North-South Foundation children. Okay?
Yeah, I'm going to turn on lights.
I'm sorry?
No, nothing. I'm still.
11 million children compete. It's highly competitive. Only 1,000 children of North-South Foundation kids participate. 1,000 of ratio to 11 million is 0.01%. 0.01%. And I calculate the likelihood is 1 divided by 1, how many? 64, if I remember right, 64 zeros. No, you know likelihood, right? 1 over 10 would be 10% chance. 1 over 5 is 20%. 1 over 1, 64 zeros is what? 0. Yet they made it. Right? They made it happen. They like to look. What it says is, these kids made what is impossible, made it possible. These kids, when they were, those kids that are less than 8 years old, can you raise your hand? Less than 8 years old. So these kids were like them. They were not gifted kids. They're like any other kid, average kid. But an ordinary child can become extraordinary. It can be done. If this kid were able to do, any kid can do. That's how the children get inspiration. That kid did it, I can do it too. Right? One child in MIT, when she saw the MIT buildings, she said, "Oh wow, I want to come here." That's inspiration. And that kid went to MIT. Right? So it's an inspiration. When people see it, that these kids will say, "Oh, I would like them. I can do it too." That's how excellence, inspiration, motivation, passion, all these things come through. So I just wanted to bring it up. And these kids, thank you for coming. I think you want to thank you. It's just wonderful. Please have North-South Foundation in your heart. Come and contribute. You're the citizens of tomorrow. This earth belongs to you, not to us. So come and participate and help. You can make change. You can bring change. You make North-South Foundation better organization. Right? You promise you will continue in your heart, a place in the heart. North-South Foundation, raise your hand. Thank you. You can bring miracles. You brought miracles. Right? You brought miracles. So we can bring miracles for the community. They are already here. Yeah. Thank you. Continue that. Please keep up the good work. Thank you for bringing this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Everybody give him a round of applause. Okay, I'm gonna do this a little differently than we have in the past because these are my friends and I know some of them. So I'm just gonna grill them one question each to get inside the head of a speller. All right? Don't grill me back, okay? All right. So Shrey, you won this year's national championship. How does it feel?
Well, I mean, it's just like so many emotions, but like the main things oh, it's not. Yeah, but the main things I feel are like
I'm just like so happy about what I did, and I'm like really proud of myself. And also, I'm relieved that the studying's over, but it kind of leaves like a void in you. Like you need to find other ways to fill up your time. So those are like the main emotions I'm feeling, but it's definitely like a big mix.
And how are you feeling your time now? And do you find anything from spelling carrying into that?
I mean, so right now, like I've been just like watching YouTube. I've been doing math, and I feel that like with spelling, like the studying skills you learn definitely like, I mean, it makes it so much easier to study for anything else. So like it's worlds easier. Like if I tried to do something 4 years ago versus now, I feel like now I can just tackle it with so much more ease.
There we go. I'll come back to you later. But the next person on the block. Alright, Navneet, you're definitely one of the best spellers I've ever known. I don't think we ever competed together in the same competition, right? But if I did, I would be really scared. But we all know that spelling is super hard for anybody, and just like Dr. Chituri said, everybody's an ordinary kid. So what are those hardships and those things that you have to go through to become extraordinary and rise to the other level and really be good at spelling? What do you have to go through? Because it's hard.
It's hard. Yeah, I'd say the main things that working on spelling for such a large part of my life helped me with are one, time management. I am now a lot more effective in studying and can just process information a lot better. I think for me, the thing that kept me going was, as a speller, was inquiry. I was just curious about words, and instead of memorizing lists or just plainly typing them en masse, I enjoyed spending time splitting and understanding words, which helped me retain words better. So I think spelling gave me, proceeding through spelling with inquiry as the thing driving it was a helpful perspective. Other than that, I think working on spelling for a long time, I think really built up my resilience and ability to deal with burnout. I think I have a healthier relationship with whatever I'm studying now, and if I sense that I'm starting to feel burned out, I'm better able to process it and continue on the right track. A lot of intangible skills, and this is something that you'll hear the other spellers say, but a lot of intangible skills, really important intangible skills you develop as a speller, and they'll help you a lot in high school, college, and just in general. A good question.
Did you have a most frustrating moment?
I had a lot of small frustrating moments while studying. I think the challenge is learning to persevere through them. For those of you who know my story, my most frustrating moment was when, so I competed 2018-19-20. I aged out in 2020. That was the year script was canceled because of COVID, so that was an unfortunate setback. But I still, it stung at the moment, but I still, that moment kind of motivated me to continue staying involved in the spelling world, which I do in many ways. I do as a coach, as an author of a vocabulary textbook, Defining Success, as coming back to North-South, contributing to North-South as a coach, a lot of different things. But yeah, that was a setback, and I'm glad that I persevered through it and continue to stay engaged in the spelling world.
So spelling makes you tough.
Makes me tough. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. All right, next person on the chopping block. All right, Nesa. So right now, spelling days are gone, but you're doing a lot of work with a lot of organizations. You do HOSA, you do NSF. You're a big leader. So how does spelling tie into that, into leadership?
I
I think that a lot of people maybe hearing that question, thinking how does spelling tie into leadership, you almost think that what is the connection, like what is possible? I think that the connection is very strong. There's a reason that every single person on this stage, I know, I don't even need to know like what you guys are doing in your lives. I know every single person on this stage is a very strong leader because I think spelling, by definition, like by just how the nature of the competition is, teaches a lot of very important leadership skills. One of the most important being, I think, your ability to think on your feet. When you are standing on stage, like say Scripps, for example, you're on ESPN, or at one point you're on ESPN, you're on like national television, and everyone is watching you, you feel the pressure of the whole crowd, you feel the pressure of the clock ticking down, and say you have a word you don't know. You don't have the option in that moment to freak out. You don't have the option in that moment to rely on anybody but yourself. And that almost forced preparation of self-reliance and independence and just being good under pressure and in the moment is what I think separates like a good leader from a great leader. I really think, like, you know what they say, like pressure makes diamonds, right? Like it literally is, when you're under this immense amount of pressure, which is a lot of pressure, you get put in a situation where you have to grow and improve and become a more qualified leader because of it. And I think that all the time in my leadership positions, whether I'm running an event and everything goes wrong, when everyone looks to me at an event that I'm running because something has gone wrong, I immediately go into problem solving mode because from years of competing in spelling bees, that's what I've been trained to do. And I think that is where spelling ties into leadership.
That's good. What was the hardest moment that you had as a leader? And what did you draw from spelling to solve it?
That's a good question. I think my hardest moment as a leader has been times where you have to have difficult conversations with people. As a leader, obviously it's really important to celebrate successes of your team, but in order to keep an organization running smoothly and giving the members of the organization the fair experience that they signed up for, you also have to be very willing to recognize when things are not going well, not from a place of cutting anyone down or tearing someone down, but from continuous improvement so as to do the members justice. I did have 2 moments this year actually where it came to my attention that there were maybe members of the teams that I was on that were not contributing in ways that was fair to others. And I think actually what spelling taught me that I was able to apply to those situations was generally the ability to consider the situation zoomed out and consider every aspect of the problem. It is very easy for someone external to someone else's situation to chalk down whatever they're not doing as laziness or as lack of work ethic. But being able to zoom out and question if maybe there's something else going on and being willing to work through something with someone is the same way that when you're standing on a stage, you ask for the language of origin and you use that information that they give you to get a more complete picture of the word that you're spelling to be able to spell the word correctly. The same way you can't approach a difficult situation in a leadership position without gaining all the information, and I think that instinct that has been instilled in me through spelling carries forward into a lot of my leadership positions that I still use to this day.
You stopped for another difficult conversation.
I did.
Good job.
Every conversation with you is difficult.
Alright, next person. Alright, Sneha. When did you first compete in the Scripps National Spelling Bee?
I first competed in 2015, 11 years ago.
And I was a little kid, and I was watching you on the TV, and then I competed with you in 2016 when you were in 8th grade.
Yep.
We don't have to talk about me beating you, but my point is, what state were you in then? What state did you grow up? That
How did it feel?
No, what's like what state geographically? Like you were in California, right?
What state? Oh, I thought you meant mental health. Yes, I was in California.
You're in Cal. Where are you now?
I'm in New York now. I was in Atlanta before. I've moved around quite a bit.
And what are you doing there?
What am I doing?
In
I
New
can't
York.
see. I work at a training data company for AI models. I help make training data.
What's that like?
It's awesome. It's very experimental job. It's nice because I was at something a lot more corporate before, and now I get to really just try things out as I see fit. So it's a cool environment to be in.
How do you go from spelling really difficult words to training data?
I think, so, I mean, spelling I did about kindergarten to 8th grade was the overall timeline of that. I think I committed to the spelling bee since that's just what I had started to do, but I haven't really explored much else of my interest at all. So it was really only after 8th grade that I got the chance to do that. So I tried out a ton of things. I danced a lot more. I did some astrophysics. I was an astrophysics major for a year. I did research on binary stars and stuff. Then I did physics. I added on CS as a major. I worked in finance for a little bit. I think the B just gave me a lot of, like to what I said, a lot of confidence and self-reliance that I knew I was exploring and I didn't have a set path in mind, but I was still really confident in what I brought to the table. So this opportunity came up when I was thinking of moving to a different job, and I think it helps a lot because you never really have full confidence in what it is you're building in like such a frontier industry, but you need some confidence in yourself, and the people with that.
And that's a pretty rigorous job, right?
Extremely.
She was doing some work while volunteering for this competition.
Yeah, I got my laptop sitting on the back there.
Yeah. And so, do you notice any similarities between how rigorous it was preparing for the spelling bee with your job that you have to do now, and how did that help you?
I think it's a lot of the same concept with like you don't see the reward of it immediately at all. Like in the be like what you get your placement once a year when you compete, and you kind of have to work blindly the rest of the time and just see where it goes. You might be completely sidetracked, you never know. It's the same thing here. It's really hard to maintain that kind of rigor and just that amount of work time in general when you're not really sure if what you're going to do is going to advance the frontier at all. So it's at some way just kind of blind work in some ways. So it's pretty similar.
Thank you. Alright, next person. Alright, so if y'all don't know, Shrutika was one of the 8 Octo champs, as we call them. And so from that year, it's pretty clear how competitive spelling is. I mean, it's so competitive, you have 8 people recognized nationally as the winner. And so, obviously that was, 7 years ago, not to make you feel old. But spelling has only grown more competitive. And I'm sure y'all kids are thinking, wow, how do I get to be at that level? Right? So, Shrutika, if you could, I know it's a very long process and very complicated, but could you walk us through how you get to that stage? How do you prepare to be able to hold that trophy at the end?
So the first time I ever did spelling was in kindergarten, North-South. So started very early, realized that, I liked it, I was good at it, and kept continuing through. So kindergarten through 4th grade, each year I would come to North-South. 1st through 4th grade, I went to nationals at North-South, and I was, prepared for that. And then 5th grade, I had my first opportunity to compete at Scripps. So I competed at Scripps 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. And 5th grade, I got 22nd. That was 2016. 6th grade, I got 7th. 7th grade, I got 10th. And then 8th grade was my final year where I won. And this process is a long one, right? I think the main thing that I've learned is I lost 3 times before I won. So it's a process of being resilient, of failing or just not meeting your expectations, and then coming back, reevaluating, thinking, how can I improve? How can I get better? How can I advance, right? So it's a continual process, but what kept me going was I like the words. I enjoyed what I was doing and I had a passion for it, and that's why I came back, year after year, and all that work ultimately paid off.
And how did you study? You just read the dictionary end to end like a book? Nice story.
I did not. No, I think it's really about learning, the etymology, learning patterns, right? One of the biggest tools from spelling is pattern recognition. In order to master all of these words, you have to become adept at seeing patterns of learning these languages, their quirks. And that's something that has helped me. Like I'm learning my 7th language now, so that's something that has really helped, right?
But can you say all of them, what they are?
Yes. So English, Hindi, Oriya, Spanish, Polish I'm learning, Latin, and then I'll be learning Swedish. So yeah, but that's a process and a love for languages that I've cultivated through spelling, and then has made it much easier for me to pick up languages now. So and yeah, it's something that I hope to be able to use to serve patients after I go to med school. So.
Lots of languages and patterns is what I'm hearing. So that's what y'all gotta study, not the dictionary, languages and patterns. Okay, write that down. Alright, next person. By the way, you did mention, but that's Navneet's younger sister, if y'all were wondering. So also, for y'all that have siblings, encourage each other and make sure y'all grow together. But, alright, you mentor a lot of students for spelling and vocabulary, yes?
Yeah.
What do you see is the biggest struggle or difficulty that your students face, and how do you get them through that?
I think one thing that especially younger students face is after a disappointment, it's harder for them to continue onwards. And honestly, my best advice for that is everyone here has lost a spelling bee. The only way that you continue onward is the only way that you can get better is by continuing. You need to stay resilient, and yeah, every failure should be taken as a stepping stone to a success.
What's the biggest area of spelling or spelling skill you see bring the biggest growth to a student? Is it learning the languages and patterns should the cassette, or is it learning definitions, or is it learning how to sort out homophones? What do you see as the most impactful? And obviously it varies, but.
I agree with Shritika about languages and language patterns.
this language with this definition, so it's probably going to go like this. How do you go about
into an AI? It will, and like scientists, computer scientists don't even like fully understand how it works, but AI, if you give it enough data, will just start to like actually deeply understand patterns in many cases where it shouldn't even like be able to do that. And so like, what? Yeah. And so like, a lot of times you also, like you should be explicitly reading like etymology rules for different like language of origin derivations. But a lot of times, actually just by like studying a lot of words, if you're doing it intentionally and not just kind of mindlessly trying to memorize, then you'll actually just kind of like pick up on that. Like even in cases where those rules haven't been explicitly spelled out by someone, you'll sort of just like, by studying words and actually thinking about them, you'll kind of realize for yourself, just by really intentionally studying a lot of words, you'll sort of subconsciously deduce these patterns for yourself. At least that's how I found it happened for me. I don't know if y'all would agree, but yeah.
All right, cool, thank you. All right, now last but not least, let's get started. Okay, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What's your hardest language or concept that you struggled with while preparing for this one?
I would say like unknown origin probably, because as everyone already mentioned, language patterns are really important, not just to memorize words, but to guess words on stage, right? And then all of these other languages have language patterns that you can rely on to get at least 80% of the words correctly without having to study them. And that's why language patterns makes it so much easier. However, unknown origin, on the other hand, there are probably like maybe 5,000 words in the dictionary. There may be more, I'm not quite sure. But those unknown origin words, they're really never patterns that you can rely to. So at that point, it just is completely based off of you having to encounter the word, you having to memorize the word, which is really what makes those words harder. You cannot guess them if you just stumble upon one of those as stage. They're really hard to guess.
And how do you go about encountering them?
How do I study them?
Yeah.
Yeah, so honestly, the best way to study unknown origin is just rote memorization, just doing those words over and over again, right? Understanding that there's not really a connection between those words. There's also a lot of ways, right? If you have a lot of mistakes from those words, there's also a lot of tactics to deal with that, right? Like putting your mistakes on a spreadsheet, reviewing those, and yeah, just stuff like that.
Cool. All right, thank y'all. We have a couple more minutes. I know y'all are dying to ask questions, so let's get through them quickly. If we could have someone pass the mic to people that are listening.
Yeah.
How would you spell a word if you really didn't know anything about it, like you didn't know roots or anything? Or
Are you asking anyone specific or the whole panel?
Yeah, like the whole thing.
Someone take it.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, that was a good question. There are many ways of tackling words that, for example, if you don't know the roots for, I would say roughly from most, and I'll be a little bit more technical here, the most helpful thing that you can use other than roots is probably language patterns. Roots are direct, they make up words, so they're probably the most reliable clue that you can get about words, but if you don't know them, I'd say the next most reliable for me was language patterns. Language patterns, as Mitch described, many of them are kind of like statistical. A lot of words in those languages tend to have certain ways of spelling certain sounds. So that's probably the next best bet you have other than roots. If maybe it's from an obscure language that you haven't made a list of or like don't know much about. You could think of like neighboring countries. For example, if you get a Dutch word and on stage you blank out on language patterns that are commonly seen in Dutch, you could kind of guess it because Dutch is spoken in the Netherlands, Germany is close to the Netherlands, maybe you might know language patterns for German words. So you can kind of make somewhat reasonable guesses, even if you sort of blank out on stage on Dutch patterns. If you don't know that, or like if that's not really applicable to your word, you can generally make a decently, like sometimes there are general rules of thumb that like cut across languages. A very basic example of that is like US versus OUS, which we talked about earlier. There are a bunch of others like that that don't necessarily apply to one specific language. Those general observations could sometimes also be helpful. If you really have like nothing and you like your mind is completely blank, generally, and this becomes more true as you see more words, your intuition is going to be increasingly, as you get a better sense of intuition, as you see more words, it's going to be increasingly helpful. But many times, as you see more words, you start making those connections in your head, and naturally you get better able to guess those words. But again, if you have like absolutely nothing and you're struggling to make a reasonable guess, many times a simple spelling, many times if you don't go overboard from the sounds, if you guess simply according to your gut, you're likely to be correct. I think this is also a point Mitch made. My understanding is that the spelling that your gut biases you towards is kind of like a subconscious reflection. It can be something that you picked up when you're studying earlier. So generally, if you're debating between two spellings, whatever your gut says is more completely helpful. So I know that was a long answer, but hopefully that addresses your question. Does anyone else want to add something? Other questions?
Yeah, here is.
Is there like a particular book do you recommend to learn the spelling rule, not dictionary, a book to learn all the rules stuff?
Yeah, I don't know if it will reach that far, but
Wait, it's fine. I'll just say, you can say. Yeah.
By the way, without having read it, you shall vouch for now.
Yes.
Oh wait.
For spelling rules in particular, I think a lot of scholars here can agree with me, but Words of Wisdom by Scott Raymer is a pretty good book. It gives you a general overview of kind of all the different languages and all their rules. And yeah, they have, like Words of Wisdom has tons and tons of example words that go under one rule for each and every language pattern in the book. It has tons of different languages. It's not just your standard Latin and Greek. It goes over African languages, unknown origin, imitative origin, and yeah, it just has everything and anything and everything when it comes to languages and patterns. So hopefully that book should help you get started on spelling rules.
Another book that I think is really helpful for beginners is How to Spell Like a Tramp by, I think, Paige Campbell. And it's really helpful for when you're starting off because it goes over a lot of, like, it's like more basic versions of what you see in WoW. So I think that's also really helpful for beginner spellers.
Really quickly, I'll add.
Also, Word Power Made Easy, Norman Lewis. I really enjoyed that book. I sat and read it with my dad when I was first getting into spelling, and I think it really grew my love for spelling as a very early beginner.
Norman
Lewis. Word Power Made Easy, Norman Lewis.
Thank you guys for reflecting the great Indian work ethic at the biggest competition of kids in the US. So this question is pretty much for those of you who've been a part of the spell-off. I believe Brihad and Shrey. How do you guys go about besting the spell off because I watched both of you being a part of the spell off and I was like mesmerized by your accuracy and your speed. And I was like, this is beyond the human capacity. So how do you go about doing that?
Well, yeah, thank you. I appreciate those nice words. But yeah, honestly, like when you first look at it, right, you've never seen this spell off, and then you watch people go on stage and do it, right? It does look superhuman to just be able to spell that fast. However, it does take a lot of preparation. And because the spell off, right, it's really hard to prepare on your own. You usually need like your family members to help you, right? So one of your parents probably pronouncing the words, and then you like simulating that spell off mode, right? So there's a 90-second timer running. What my dad used to do is he used to pick words that I used to miss, right? So it would give me practice on my mistakes, and it would help me for the spell off. So it's a win-win scenario, right? He would pronounce the words, and then I would just spell them as fast as I can, right? The starting spell-offs were somewhere around like 15, right? And then I got all the way to scripts when I got 29, right? So it does take a lot of practice. I would say if you want to practice like wherever you are, like I feel like the spell-off is a lot about, it kind of shifts gears from the regular spelling bee, because as you know, in the regular portion of the spelling bee, it's 90 seconds for each word. And you're encouraged to think about the word, ask language patterns, ask roots, and try to piece together the word. The spell-off is a totally different thing. You know, you have to kind of know the words. There's not really time to, I guess, use the definition and use the part of speech to get the word right. So I feel like for the spell-off, and if you get to the spell-off in the national competition, you'd probably already be well-versed in these words, right? It's just the ability to recall words fast. I wouldn't really recommend studying for the spell-off until you know that you're a top-tier, right, competitor. You're doing very good in all of these Bs. That's really when you should start studying for the spell-off, right? Practice saying letters fast. Like you can do that really anywhere. You could also just see if you can recall words as fast as you can, right, without taking much time with all of the info. So yeah, it is a whole change, like a landscape change from the regular spelling bee to the spell-off. But yeah, with practice, you could definitely get it. So what I have to say about the spell-off is, it's like not something you should really worry about, because I think as you see a lot of words and as you like do them, you're gonna start like doing them fast when you're practicing and when someone is quizzing you. And I think that kind of like if you're practicing at that speed and once you get to that level, I think the spell-off almost just comes naturally. So like too much specialized like prep is not really needed for the spell-off. Like if you're doing like all the typing things and if you're spelling fast in quizzing sessions, that speed should come naturally. And I mean, honestly, I would try to get like a really good understanding of words, because that makes learning 80% of words kind of useless, because at that point you know them from language patterns, so you don't even need to study them. But for that 20% of words, I think just doing them over and over and doing them fast is the best way you can get those good for the spell-off. So yeah.
Okay, I'm sure a lot of you have a lot more questions. We'll probably, I don't know what our schedules are, but we can probably stay behind and answer some questions that y'all have. Y'all can come up to anyone. We have 10 people here. Y'all can ask questions though right after. So thank y'all for listening, and I hope that y'all took something from this.
So there's no shot to have a put a mic there and have it connected there. Is what I'm saying. Does that work or would that work? But you gotta find the mic like that. If you can find the mic, it doesn't have to be that sort of mic, but it could be a different mic. Yeah, that should work. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna talk to you.
We're going to take a break for about 45 minutes. We're going to start back at 1:15 with man. It's a wonderful program that champions. And then 2:15 we are going to be with organized. And then the exit so 1:15 please all of you come back.
So you are recording, right? Yeah, this is all recorded. Live stream.
Now, you have a team of people that you're...
Yeah.